when I come up with the crop. Gotta love it or not. I'm hot from the hop to the club spot. Get the club to pop. When I come up with the club spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the club spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the club spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with everybody, we do it. Everybody, we do it.
What is good? You are now tapped into the coolest reptile podcast in the world. I'm your boy, MJ. Before we get started, please do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button, like button, dislike button. Drop a comment for the guest. Drop a comment for the show. Let me know how you're liking it, man. And if this is your first time tapping into the coolest reptile podcast in the world, welcome, man. I do these every Thursday, 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Do them every Saturday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So it's two big solid reasons why you should be following this channel. Shout out to all my trappers out there, all my early birds. What is good? I hope you guys are ready, man. I know I'm ready. I just had a fresh week off of some trap business. Now I'm back into business, but man, shout out to Florida. I had a great time with my family, Socrates, his whole family. We got to do a lot of cool shit. We got to hang out with Tyler Nolan, which was amazing. Just seeing a day in the life of Tyler Nolan is something very impressive. I'm not going to lie. So shout out to Tyler. Thanks for taking care of me and the fam. That shit was sick as fuck. And yeah, this shit was sick. I'm not even going to lie. So before we also get started, I got to say, man, there is a future star that has hit the platforms. And I'm not joking. I'm not just saying this. This is not a gimmick. This is the real deal. This is Snake Master Exotics, Ariana, a 6-year-old who is a proven breeder. Yes, I'm not saying somebody who's just saying she's a breeder and actually hasn't had eggs. No, this girl has raised her current pair that she just had a clutch from, just had babies hatch from. And she killed it. I'm not even going to lie, man. It was a super pastel banana, 100% het clown to a banana clown. And she, from bases, I mean, I don't know yet. Let's give it a couple sheds, but I'm pretty sure she hit super bananas and everything. Even those two visuals, the right one's mine. Don't even think about it. So yeah, please do me a favor, guys. And you're not gonna regret this. I'm telling you, there's so much content that's gonna be coming from this page. Sick ass content, amazing animals, top-notch quality stuff from a 6-year-old. Go follow Snake Master Exotics, Ariana, the future of the industry. So yeah, man. we already know what's up with other stuff that's the future of the industry, like the damn Cold-Blooded Cafe, the rawest, sickest, freshest, and bestest rodent company in the game. So shout out to Desiree, shout out to Steven, shout out to the whole Cold-Blooded Cafe team. $30 flat rate shipping, rodents delivered to your doorstep, okay? You cannot go wrong with coldbloodedcafe.com, professionally packed, and your snakes will thank you. Your reptiles, period. Anything that eats rodents is going to thank you for that, man. Shout out to Steven and Ashley over at Focus Cube Habitats. You guys are the truth. Got a lot of great things going on over there at Focus Cube Habitats. Make sure you go follow them on Instagram. All their enclosures are so nicely built and they look clean. I'm telling you, the plexiglass front, the clear, like I'm staring at my emerald right now perfectly. And it's just awesome. I'm telling you, I can't wait to deck out the whole room. I got a really big enclosure coming from them. I'm not going to spill the beans quite yet, but it is huge. And I can't wait to show you guys, man. So shout out to Steven, shout out to Ashley. Thank you so much for grinding for the whole industry and doing what you do. Shout out to another huge company, I would say the hardest rack system company in the game, personally. Freedom Breeder, what is good? Shout out to Jesse and the whole Freedom Breeder crew. Stainless steel built racks made in the United States. You cannot go wrong with Freedom Breeders, man. If you got a Freedom Breeder rack, you know where it's at. Pat yourself on the back for that one, man. You are on your way. So yeah, shout out to Freedom Breeder. And then shout out to my boy Miguel Garcia, always evolving pythons, doing big things. Just got back from Mexico. I'm sure that trip looked fun. You know, this dude's always plugging away, making new contacts and whatnot. So I'm telling you right now, if you really want to get motivated, if you really want to get an idea on how awesome this hobby can be and where it could take you, you're going to want to follow my man, Miguel Garcia, always evolving pythons. He is the shiznit, and everybody will back me up on that. I'm telling you right now, if you met Miguel, you've been impacted. I'm telling you right now. Facts. Shout out to Miguel. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, man. US ARC, guys, let's keep fighting US ARC. If you are not yet a member of US ARC, go down to the link in the description below. Click on that. Check it out. See what you can do. If you can't support financially, word of mouth, man, it's key. Just go ahead and start spreading it on your stories. Do what you can, but US ARC needs our support. US ARC always needs our support. They're going to bat for us, doing what they can to save our animal rights. Don't fuck with my animals. US ARC, thank you so much. And then make sure you don't forget to follow me on Instagram, mjexoticscartal with an A, not an E. Make sure you follow the podcast's Instagram, Trap Talk with MJ Podcast. I'm also on Twitch. What is good to all my Twitch viewers out there? We got to start building that Twitch community up. So if you have Twitch, go check me out on Twitch, man. These lives are just as sick as on YouTube as they are on Twitch. So check it out. Check me out on TikTok, mjexoticscartal. And then I will say, heavy shout out to all my Patreon members, man. I love you guys to the fullest. I am building a solid ass community of trappers. I'm not joking. We are a part of some sick ass shit that we've been building over the past year. If you're looking to be a part of something like that, where, you know, you have sources of knowledge and, you know, plugs left and right, then come fuck with the trappers, man. Go down to the link below. Go ahead and join the Patreon family and see what's good. And that's that. Shout out to my Patreon members. That's all I got to say. You guys are the shit. I will also say shout out to my boy, Matt Summers. If you're not following my boy, Matt Summers, you need to right now. I'm rocking one of his hats right now. MSR in the building. He's going to be doing a lot of traveling with me. So more than likely, if you catch MJ on the road doing his shit, more than likely, you're going to catch my boy, Matt Summers with me. So if you see my homie, Matt Summers, say what up. Make sure you please go follow him on Instagram as well. My boy, MSR Reptiles, Matt Summers. Like I said, big things to come from the both of us, and you are going to see that from yourself in just a matter of time, man. But what is good, all my early birds? Early birds looks like they're up and cracking. I got to say hi to everyone who's here. I hope you guys are having a great. What's up, the homegirl Mindy? That's a trap soldier right there. I hope you're doing great. Another new trap soldier. What's up, Marlon? How you doing, player? Thanks for being here. I appreciate you. Jason, what is up, Jason? Are you ready for next month, bro? I'm about to be in your town, dog. You're going to pick me up? I don't want to go by your taco shops, okay? Please. No Mexican food, Jay. Let's go get some barbecue or something. I'm never eating Mexican food in Indianapolis again. I'll tell you that right now. What's up, Jay Hendo? How you doing, the homie Jay Hendo? Another Patreon savage in the building. CRM Reptiles, what is up? Julio, what is cracking, Julio? I'm glad this is your first time catching it. I hope you'll come back again. Tucker, what's up, Tuck? The homie Tuck, Patreon homie. Wiz Constrictor, what is good, Wiz? How you doing, Wiz? Thanks for being here. Much love. Kevin over at Forest Pythons Batemans. What is good, Kevin? Another Patreon savage. And then the one Patreon savage you don't want to fuck with. He will snipe you from a long ways away. My boy literally just graduated sniper school, and he's putting in work for this country. So I appreciate my boy over there, Year Zero Reptiles. Thanks for being here, man. I appreciate you. Another Patreon savage, Tyler King. What is good? Matt Summers, we already talked about you, man. Go follow my boy, Matt Summers. You won't regret it. Deviant Glass, what is cracking? I got my bowls ready. I am going to be ripping some bowls out of your Sherlock here. Best believe. What's up, Lily? Lily up in the building. We have Tyler King up in the building. Dang, Aurora up in the building. Black Smoke Reptiles up in the building. All right. Go homie. D's Balls Exotics just had a killer day fishing. What's up, Dylan? Thanks for being here. Greg B. Hannah, what is good? Hannah Banana, another Patreon savage. Man, we got nothing but Patreon like military soldiers in this bitch. What is good? Austin Anderson, what is cracking? And then Andy Middleton, a Facebook savage who's actually here. Thanks for being here, bro. I'll end at Andy Middleton because Andy's a G, and we're gonna have Andy on this show soon. But man, thank you so much. It's gonna go. We're getting down tonight because I've been wanting to bring this guest on ever since I brought him on Unfiltered Reptiles podcast. He's been coming on a lot of shows lately, but you know, this is a trap, man. This is a different type of fucking podcast. And my man's down to earth as fuck. I know this for a fact because I just had him on Unfiltered Reptiles podcast a few months ago. But now he's here to tap in with us in the trap. And we got our man, Ron St.Pierre, in the building. What is up, Ron?
What's up, man?
How are you, bro?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
I'm stoked to have you here. You have no idea.
Well, I'm glad to be here, man.
A lot's happened since I've had you on Unfiltered. You know that, right?
Yeah, I can see you. You got a lot going on, man. You guys.
I got lace monitors, bro. Like I got a pair.
I know.
What the? I mean, and it's your fault. I'm just kidding.
Hey, man. Whatever. That's a good thing to pass on, man.
I love it. No, man. Seriously, Ron. What is good, bro? I'm super happy to have you here because I did get fired up over our Unfiltered podcast that I felt like we went what 2 hours and it just wasn't enough. And like I said, stoked you're here. I got a lot of questions about monitor talk and then also, you know, snake talk, man. It's like, you know, this guy's more than just a monitor guy. Like he also has amazing snakes. And I don't feel like we got enough snake talk in on our last show. So we have enough to talk about, man. I'm excited. But before we get into all that, Ron, how's everything going on your end? You know, not only just with your personal life, but just like, you know, with your breeding and whatnot. How's everything all together going this year?
I mean, it's been a great year so far. We've, you know, I like you said, I have a lot of lace monitors and stuff like that. And I had some issues with them last year. So it turns out, you know, I breed everything outdoors. I'm in Central Florida. And
right.
There's like this kind of pervasive myth that breeding things outdoors is easier than indoors. And that's absolutely not the case. I've been doing it outside for, I guess, going almost 40 years now, since I was 18. So a long time. Okay. And, you know, there's a lot of issues with it. You're, you know, if you have them indoors, you can control the environment and everything and have everything exactly how you want it. But outside, even if your climate is fairly good like ours is, it's totally different game. So last year I had a shit ton of pretty much every lace female that was big enough to breed went through most of the steps, even as far as to appear gravid, and then nothing would happen. Right. Which I bred a lot of Varanids outside over the years, and this was sort of not what I expected. So it turns out after a while of, you know, trial and error that they just weren't getting hot enough. The rains would come. We were locked into a pretty much long period where we were getting like constant rain, and it would cool everything off, and the females would, I assume, just reabsorb what, you know, the ova or whatever. So about 2 months ago, I started to revamp it and add these clear plastic panels that keep the rain off them, that amplify the heat. So they have the ability, they're in very large outdoor enclosures. So they have the ability to get some stupidly hot temperatures that are totally counter to what I do for all the other species we work with. Everything else is about giving it proper cool spots. But for the monitors, you have to give them a super hot spot as well. And I mean, just stupidly hot. I wouldn't have thought that this was possible. So I did change that. And then we started getting fertile lace monitor eggs. So I just recently rebuilt it all. I'm doing the same thing for the Mertens monitors now, and I've rebuilt an enormous enclosure and moved it to the hottest place on the property and have the amplifying. And I'm also using these black rubber mats in the hottest part, in the sunniest parts of the enclosure. And those things get so hot that I threw a chicken egg on them. On one of them, I was feeding it, and the egg cooked on it. And the monitor was laying on it, like, you know. So that temperature on that mat must be well over 200 degrees. But until I started offering that, though, it was a problem. So that's pretty much what I've been doing the last couple of months. Is I'm just redoing all of the monitor case. I redid it for the Ackies, and now they're really jamming. And so hopefully, when rainy season kicks in, you know, they'll keep going, and this won't affect them. I'm actually using electrical heat during that period to heat them up too further. So there's a lot. Monitors are tough, man, as it is. But
yeah,
I was actually kind of surprised how the Australian stuff outdoors, where I'm currently located, was negatively impacted by the rain cycle, even when it's 95 degrees out.
Right.
So that's so but anyway, so the good news is we got fertile eggs. They're gravid again. We've got multiple gravid females. Spencer's didn't go this year. I'm not exactly sure why. I don't think they're just getting hot enough, and I think I'm well on the way to rectifying that. So maybe next season, but and then I'm working with all those weird giant anoles and shit.
Yeah, you are. Those things are sick as shit. Oh yeah. Man, those are different too, man. You got to understand, like, these anoles are. I mean, I really want, next time I'm in Florida. I just got back from Florida. I would love to come by and check out your place, bro. Just because you do have just some amazing stuff, like those anoles. I get asked about, hey, can you ask Ron about the anoles? Like a lot, So, which we'll dip into those in a sec. But to kind of talk more about the heat source that you're supplying now, right? Like, is it constant basking that you have for them now, or like what are you doing to supplement heat? Like how did you fix that?
Yeah, I mean, it's multiple zones. My cages are really large. They're outdoor. Like, so for a single pair of lace monitors, their enclosure is 8 foot by 8 foot by 8 foot. And then it's divided. Yeah, it's got lots of huge logs. It's got multiple tiered shelving system, all the way from the low areas, a foot off the ground, all the way up to the highest, about 7.5 feet off the ground. So they have so many opportunities. So what I'm basically doing is I'm giving them a black mat that gets insanely hot. I made inside each enclosure basically out of clear plastic panels, sort of like a hot box that they can go into if they want to. Sort of like it's a reverse idea of a typical hiding box, where you would give them like a dark, cool spot. Well, instead, I've made this one out of clear plastic. It's in full sun. Its ambient inside the box is around 117 degrees, 120 degrees when the sun's out. And they go and sit in the morning until they heat up, and then they come out and they do their thing. And so I'm giving them just the choices. They have so many opportunities. And then they have a subfloor that they can get underneath, which is always cool, where nobody can fuck with them under there. And it's cool and it's humid under there. And so they've got all these zones in each enclosure, and they just spend all day picking, what they need. So, that's kind of what I've been doing, man. And like I said, then I also, for the first time, I normally do all this without any electricity at all. I've almost never in 30 years.
Your climate, right? Okay.
Yeah, I use clear plastic sheeting to modify the temperatures typically, and as a result don't need electricity. But with these guys, I'm running electricity so that when the rains come in the summertime, then I can just jack up the heat in there, and they'll always have a 120 degree area they can go into.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, in the wintertime, I just cut everything off altogether. And I let them get down in the upper 40s, low 50s, and they do fine, because but that's a bit disingenuous. They're underneath the subfloor, and it probably doesn't get much below 50 under there.
Right.
It gets cold, but that's pretty much how I've done, for everything. And it's worked out really well. Most things produce. So
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I've been talking to, John and Alex from Sim Container and whatnot, and, just running by, keeping them outside and whatnot. And I could definitely get away with it here in San Diego, but I definitely need like, some sort of a heat box or something for them to just have in case they do need hotter temps. But, summertime here, man, it's consistent 90s and up,
yeah, I mean, that's how it is here too. It was just the rain. There's been a lot of hurricane activity. So every time, we don't even need to get hit, man. They just need to be offshore, and they can basically put you under clouds and kind of like a misty rain for a week at a time. So
right.
It lowers the temperature down in the upper 70s, low 80s, and a wet monitor gets cold, and then they just don't, they can't complete the cycle. So the system will fix that. So
Ron, I have a pair that I've been raising up. They're about a few weeks in age difference, right? Male and female. Male's obviously male's growing like a fucking weed. Female's growing too, but the male's like, it's pretty impressive how quick he's growing.
Yeah.
But at what point, right? I mean, I could keep them together to the next grow out enclosure if I wanted to, right? And just kind of, especially if they're okay together, or like, what's your recommendation as far as cohabiting them? And, maybe get into and then is there a certain point where I should consider separating them or whatnot?
I mean, I really stay out of the realm of actually making recommendations. I will tell you what I do. I keep everything pretty much in pairs, and I only split if there's an aggressive action.
Okay.
So the lace that I have here, we have 3 adult pairs and an extra male, and they stay paired pretty much year round. The only time I put a separating thing in there is after the female laid her eggs for about a week or two, because they guard the nest up until that point. And then as soon as I see the mate male and the female laying up again, because so all my lace monitors can see each other. They have all the cages it's all connected.
Right.
So when I see, a male try to laying basically alongside of a female, but only with the wire in between them, and they're not trying to kill each other, then I know they're good. And I open up the divider, and then they go back, and then they stay together again.
Nice.
So that's pretty much how I do all Varanids. I mean, Ackies, I'm actually group breeding them in a big enclosure with a huge pile of cork bark, and there's 2 males and 6 females, I think, in that enclosure.
Oh, that's sick. That would be cool to see.
But it's big, and it like I said, it's got an entire case of cork flats. So it's got like a shit ton of places to hide and crevices, and their cage is very large. It's a 4x8. So,
okay.
And it's full of furniture. So they have lots of ability to get away from each other and do whatever, but there's been no aggressive. They're all perfect. They're fat, they're healthy. And so I think a lot of those smaller Adatria type monitors, they probably live in group situations in the wild anyway. There's only so many rocky crevices and stuff like that. So
yeah, I mean, from what I understand, males in the wild pretty much dominate a certain piece of property, I guess, and then they have so many females within that area that they just smash on, I guess. And it's kind of like that in every area, right? Where it's one male to how many females, and they're pretty much king of the hill with any other fucking monitors that try to come in that area, or I mean, in the wild they have they have multiple females, basically, is what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I think for the larger species, that's probably certainly the case. I end up preferring. I've just found over the years that having everything in pairs pretty much really hedges your bets against having things fail. So,
right. Okay.
It's a little bit less. It's a little less maybe optimal, but at the end of the day, when I look at my outcomes when I went from having, one male and lots of females to having pairs, I actually produced more with less females, and it pretty much has, borne itself out as true over time. Wow. So I started switching to that model about 10 years ago, and it really, it's been working. I mean, we produce a lot of rare species, some of which, people have had a hard time doing previously, and then I got them and set them up like this, and we've been cranking them out. There's a few rare anoles that we're working on that were pretty tough. So, and when I got them, this is Anolis luteolare, so it's like a 2-foot anole from Cuba. And there were some in captivity in the United States, but not many. And the people that had them all reported that at least that I heard, they were all having like real problems. They couldn't get them to produce.
Right.
And then I took some on breeding loan, put them outside, and split them into pairs and gave them the setup that I thought was appropriate. And I produced like 40 of them already. So so we'll have them fully established, I think. Well, not fully established, but we'll have an assurance colony of them by the end of this year. And then I'm trying to get them into hands of people that will continue that, because you really need, you need about 20 people with a fair number, somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 20 to 50 animals per person, to really have a colony that has a chance of surviving in multi-generations in captivity. Other than that, I've seen a lot of things are dangerously close to being gone forever from the trade. I can think of 10 things right now off the top of my head that are like teetering right there. There's like 1 or 2 guys with a couple of them. Australian water dragons are a good example of that. There's not many left. There was one guy that was making thousands of them named Bert Langerwerf, and he passed away in mid-2000s. And when he did, the rest of us didn't really carry it on. I mean, I bought some of his collection and I got bored with them and traded them off for other stuff that I wanted to work with. And now when I go and look for them, they're almost non-existent. So I know a few people that are working on them and trying to resurrect them. But they're right there. They're, I mean, 1 or 2, fuck ups and they're gone.
I mean, so. Ron, if you don't mind, just because like I was telling you earlier, this channel is like influenced by like a lot of new people in the hobby and whatnot. So can you kind of tell people who out there who are curious, like what your involvement's been and for how long with this industry and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Miami. We had all kinds of lizards and snakes right in our backyard, right in the city. I mean, I grew up in the city. So, when I was a little kid, I used to go out there and catch the stuff and always had an interest in that and dinosaurs and shit like that. By the time I was about 15 or so, I started, I basically found my way to a reptile importer wholesaler. And then I found out that, hey, I can catch local lizards and trade them to this guy for shit that I want. True red-tail boas and red tegus and all that stuff. So I started doing that. And by the time I was 16, I was rocking it and I was making money, and it seemed pointless to even continue to do anything else but this. So I dropped out of school and started doing this. And then it just snowballed from there. Eventually I was a commercial collector for a while. I collected basically non-native species that were loose all over South Florida, iguanas and various anole species. And by the time I was 20, I was supplying a fairly large number of the trade with those animals. I was one of the primary suppliers down south. So, and I just kept trading. And right around that time, the ball python thing started to take off, and the boas and all the morphs. So I realized that I had I was selling to 5 big importers in Miami that brought in all the ball pythons and all the boas for everybody else. And I could go through those shipments because I was there and selling them anoles, and I picked out all kinds of morphs. Some of the first ball python morphs that entered the trade came through me in one way or another.
Yeah, that's so.
I had the second caramel albino. I forget what they called that thing. Lindy and Kevin McCurley from Nerd ended up buying it, but and I had a lot of them that they used to call ghost balls, which were really hypos. I don't know what you guys call them now because I've been out of the ball python thing, but I didn't really. Yeah, and so I was always a boa guy. So I was really there for boas and tegus and monitors and shit like that. So the ball pythons I would pretty much sell. I would go through the shipments, find weird stuff, And then I had guys that were paying me $2,000 a pop for every weird ball python that I could pull out. And I was paying $10 for these things. I'd buy 100 lot of ball pythons and I would get, sometimes 8 or 10 potential morphs in a single shipment. And I mean, at the time I pulled out things that went on to make, serious ball python guys a lot of money over time. So, but for me, it really wasn't my deal. And like I said, my interest is more, stuff like that. I mean, I like it all, and I've kept it all. And, I even bought one of those fucking banana balls when they were $10,000 and lost my ass 6 months later. But,
Classic.
I have very broad interests. So at this point in my career, I've bred everything from multiple tree frog species and shit tons of snake species and lots and more lizards than I can even remember. Because at the end of the day, I'm probably mostly a lizard guy. I like it all. So
let's check out some of these anoles real quick because these are pretty badass. Like, what's this anole is one of the ones that get up to 2 feet, or is this not one of them?
Yeah, no, that's one of them. That's the one I was talking about. That was almost. I mean, there's very few of them, and that's Anolis ludogalaris, and that's the western giant anole, and they lay 1 egg every 7 to 10 days, and they'll do that. Yeah,
and what do you
all these? I'm sorry.
What do you incubate them at?
Room temperature 78 degrees.
78. Wow.
Okay. And super easy. They eat the crested gecko diets and insects and fresh fruit. I think if you could pull up a Podior picture, the Podior are probably the big project. That's the real colorful. Yeah. Okay. Those. So, and that's not even a good one. We have some that just blow that away. But that is the interest that I have from those is probably the most I've ever seen in my entire career. And I was the originator of the blood boa and the motley boa and some of the other stuff. And they didn't have any sort of,
you just said you're the originator and you're not even trying to flex. That's just so sick. Like, you're just being honest. Like, I'm sorry, that is so hard, bro, because those are so crucial things in the hobby now, what you just said, the blood and the motley. Like, it's like, whew. Anyway, sorry, I just had to say that.
Yeah, I mean, those and the blue and albino blue tegus are my 4 probably primary things that I introduced to the trade. And all 4 of those, I mean, the albinos were a surprise, but for the blue tegus, that's another Podior. Most of them have the yellow flecking, but that one is a solid blue one, which is an anomaly. But we have a group of those producing now too. Those things, I hate posting pictures of those, dude, because my fucking phone explodes every time I do. So it's a cool problem to have, but holy shit, when I get those out, I'm.
How do people do? Prepared. How do people do when you actually give? I mean, what are like the survival rates normally when you give these to people who are just like, oh, can I please have one? Like, do you have to be careful, or like, is this pretty an easy species to get established if you just listen to what your advice? Yeah,
I mean, they're really easy to establish, but the price is very high. Like Podior are $2,500 a pop, so anybody that pays that is going to do their research.
No, you'd be surprised.
All right. Well, most people.
Yeah, most.
But yeah, I mean, they're actually basically fairly standard. I mean, if you look at, if you take the Leachianus geckos, which are pretty common in the trade now, and most people have some, there's lots of books on them, and it's a simple thing to find good info on those. But you can take that animal and port a lot of its care over to these. So it's sort of similar in that regard. The only difference is they need some modest heat, about 90-degree hotspot, and some UV. But other than UV and heat, they eat the same things. They do well in a 78-degree ambient or 75-degree ambient room. They live very well in those 3-foot Zoom Med front opening terrariums that they make, and or the large screen cages. They work, and so a pair does real well in those enclosures. So. I mean, they're very simple. I think a lot of people think they're going to be a pretty big thing. They think they're one of the, it is one of the the giant anoles are one of the kind of unmined sections of herpetoculture that nobody's really paid a lot of attention to. There's a bunch of like hardcore anole nerds out there, and most of those guys are like gecko guys and shit.
Right.
But there's not a lot, and most of the public, especially, or the larger field of herpetoculture, most people have never seen those other than the one they catch in Miami, which is the standard equestris, which we have albinos of and are producing. So once we start rolling out all the albinos, we started selling some albinos last year, and so we'll have albinos and then multiple species, and we have a piebald one, but it recently passed. It didn't. I have one that we think is leucistic. We have some other weird stuff. So, I think in another, I've been working on it for about 10 years. I think it's going to take another 5 years or so, and then it's going to really just kind of pop. And it should take off. Yeah, it'll be cool. I mean, it's very similar to how the Rhacodactylus geckos were, the cresteds, the gargoyles, the leechies were in the mid 90s. So they're in about the same spot that those geckos were then. So you figured 10 years out could be a pretty big part of herpetoculture. So that's what I think anyway.
And now if we could go back to the laces real quick, as far as like what breeding is looking like now for you. I mean, I know you said you've done some changes and you're continuing to do changes, but like, are you getting clutches now? I think you just recently had a clutch. Is that right? Or
yeah, I've had 2 clutches in the last couple weeks. So
how many eggs per clutch?
5. Oh well, 3 on the first one, 5 on the second one.
So 8. Nice.
Yeah, and then both of those females are going through the process again, so I'm expecting eggs out of them in another couple weeks. Another round.
Normal to bells?
No, actually, it's normal to normal and bells to bells.
I need a normal run. We'll talk. I really need a normal. We're gonna talk, buddy. But we got this. Yes. Yeah,
I mean, I'm intentionally trying to make normals, so I have enough bells that I could have put a bells in everything, but I like the normals as much as the bells. And
I love
one of the normals we have has really good banding, so I'm kind of hoping that maybe I can magnify that over time.
Have you heard of the tiger stripe normals? They're called tiger stripes, but they look like, I mean, they have like that thick striping on their back that goes, and they're like really dark. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I mean, that's the cool thing about it. Lace monitor, I think, has real legs. I mean, very long-term possibilities. There's a lot of selective breeding that can be done without needing any morphs or anything at all, just to make, because I mean, John Dragna has a pink bells, and the bells that pink, eventually if he can get more and he can keep going with that could be something really crazy down the line.
Those 2 I have those are their dad. That's the dad from the pink.
Oh, well, yeah. See, so maybe one of those or both of them will turn pink. So there's a lot of ways to go with that. Plus, you could hyper accelerate the process and get really thin banded ones and just endless stuff. So yeah, it's my favorite of everything I've ever worked on. And I break croc monitors. I was one of the first people to do that in the 90s. I remember that. And but the lace are by far the best thing I've ever worked on.
Now, laces could lay up to twice a year. Is that correct? Or once a year?
No, they can I'm not sure exactly what the full amount is, but I know that people have gotten 3 or 4 clutches.
In a year?
Oh, yeah. A lot of ranids, as long as you're supplying them with enough heat and enough food, they can probably lay 6 or 7 clutches.
That is too hard. Wow. All right. Yeah. Heat, baby. Fuck yeah. Heat, baby.
Yeah, it really is heat and food. So,
shit, mine love.
But you got to bear in mind, though, it's a balancing act. You got to make sure that they have the ability. It's just really about giving them choices, and that really is the whole, all of herpetoculture in a nutshell. I've used that same method for every species I've ever worked on, and 99% of the time it works. As long as I just give choices. I look at where they come from, I look at what their needs are, then I give them, extremes on all ends. They have cool spots, they have super hot spots, and then everything in between, and coupled with making sure that I don't, like, one of the things common mistakes I see is people put a lot of lizards in bear cages, and bear caging just doesn't really work. It works for a handful of species in spite of it, but it's really not that good for them. And if you put them in like enclosures that have, like, it doesn't even have to be huge. It's just about giving them stuff to do. It's kind of like, imagine if you
mind off shit.
Yeah, it's like, imagine if you locked yourself, if you took everything out of a room for yourself. And I mean, this is anthropomorphizing a little bit, but not really. If you locked yourself in a completely bare room, I mean, how long would that take you before you started losing your shit? Or even put a dog in a room like that with nothing to do, with no wall, just 4 walls. So with a lot of lizard species, since they tend more towards, they have more secretive nature in a lot of cases. If you supply them with all that stuff, shit to climb on, shit to hide in, stuff like that, you'll get them to go as long as they have the rough parameters. There's really no I see a lot of things about these precise numbers, and I've never found those precise numbers to be true. Like, it's pretty much, I mean, if you think about it, even in equatorial areas, those temperatures are not perfect. I mean, they change just like everything, they're just tend to be more stable than, say, if you're up in a temperate area, but they still have a range. And then there's all sorts of other factors that play into it. So you just have to hit somewhere within the safe parameters, which is pretty large for almost everything.
Right.
So
now, when it comes to, feeding them as they're growing older, right? I mean, as I do it now, like, I'll feed them, some source of a meat diet with egg, and then the next day will just be a lighter day, which is egg. But is feeding them every day okay, or should I not be feeding them every day?
Yeah, I mean, if you're growing them up, I personally feed verandants that I'm growing up 2 and 3 times a day. So I'll give them the option.
Sometimes I'll find like a dead grasshopper that I'm breeding, and I'll fucking toss it to them, like, randomly. They love it. They always eat, bro. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, I feel like they always eat. It's crazy.
Yeah, as long as they're growing, and then their heat is high, they have high enough heat, you can't really screw them up. I mean, honestly, they're not something that, in my experience, you can overfeed when they're little. Now, when they get big, that's a different story. But even there, like, I daily feed when they're breeding. I feed the females pretty heavy every day. The males, I give about 1/3 as much food. So I have to target feed all of the monitors. So I can't just put food in there and leave it, or I'll have one big fat male and the female will get nothing. And then the males get fat. When the males get fat, they don't do shit. They don't want to breed. Yeah, they just lay around. So you got to keep them always, edgy and hungry, lean. Yeah.
Well, that's a good point, Ron, because I mean, I'm right now, it's like, I gotta be quick when it comes to offering food, because one wants to steal the other one's food, like, right off the bat, So I had someone actually comment on one of my posts saying, hey, we should reach out to Ron St.Pierre. He has techniques on how to get them not to fight over food. Is that true, or is this guy capping?
I mean, it's not necessarily to get them to fight over food. I got this idea from David Kirshner, who is an Australian zoologist. I believe he's a zoologist or biologist, but he's done a lot of studies on lace monitors in the wild, and he has a pair in his house, and he target feeds by he basically dual wields tongs with rats on the end, and he hands one to one and one to the other. But he makes sure he makes them each climb a separate branch. And that's kind of what I do. I coax the male up, because he's the more aggressive one, so the male's easier. I get him up on a branch over in one side, and then I get the female in the other corner, and I hand the one to the male only after the female I've given the female to. So I hold the food in front of the male, don't let him have it until the female eats twice. Then I give him his, and then I give the female the third one, and then sometimes I'll kick the male an extra one, or
so ladies first.
Basically, yeah. I mean, that's your only option, because female lace monitors, at least, are pretty timid. Now, the Mertens, I don't have to do that with. Those things are fucking piranhas, man. You throw food in there, the females will kick they are as aggressive eating as the males, so I don't really have to do that. And I've noticed that I can feed those without target feeding, without any kind of upset in the amount. The food seems to get distributed on its own. And I have 5 adults, and it's huge.
Mertens is hella prehistoric, bro. I mean, I saw the Mertens over at Reptile. Desiree and Steven has a pair of Mertens, and man, they're sick because they're super aquatic. Like they like being in the water, but they're fucking big too, dude. Like they look like they don't fuck around. Like the male is huge, dude.
Yeah, they're awesome, man. When they're all in the water in the morning, and when I open up the side to, like this morning, I put a whole bunch of eggs in there. They will raise almost out of the water with their tail propelling them forward as fast as they can through the pond, through the water. Like it's just crazy. It's like a freaking motorboat. So they're cool as shit, man. Really like them. I've had them before in the past. I was unable to do anything with them. That was like in 95 or so. So getting the chance to work with them again. And I think I have it dialed in now. So it's just, again, they're another very hot monitor. They like it super hot. They need a very large basin of water. They do all their breeding in the water. So if you don't have, they basically, and that was the mistake that I made in the 90s, was I didn't give them, I gave them basically a water pan, but it wasn't enough. Now they actually have a fucking pond and they're in it. Oh yeah, I see them breeding in it, and it can't be deep. It needs to be deep enough, but not too deep, so around 6 inches. And you need to have stuff in the pond that they can grip onto, like
rocks and
logs. Yeah, dead logs and shit like that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's cool, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, the setup that Steven and Desiree have their Mertens in is my favorite setup that they have. It's exactly what you said. Huge pond, got multiple levels, but like inside the pond, there's all these like ledges and fucking big stumps and shit. It's so awesome. Like I think I was in the monitor room, which I don't think is the monitor room anymore now. I can't remember, but I was in that room for a while, man. Like I'm not gonna lie, dude. Monitors, bro. I mean, snakes is what brought me this podcast, brought me everything for the most part. But then this monitor addiction, like this passion I have for monitors, which simply came from just being in a room full of them. Unreal. Like these things are just, they're like dogs. Like, I mean, it's like, I'm not going to say they're like, they resemble dogs, even though they sleep like puppies like shit. It's the cutest thing in the fucking world. Like, bro, when I first got these bells, I would check in on them at night. And the male, Mac Dre, always has a spot in the cork that he likes to sleep. And he has like a pillow. He puts his head like a pillow. And like, so what I'll do sometimes, I'll flick the light on in the morning. And like, you know how even yourself, like you'll know like a light's on and you don't want to open your eyes. So you're just kind of like, oh, I don't want to wake up yet. Dude, this fucker's so cute, man. He just is so just like, oh, like God, I don't want to get up. Like it's just so awesome. And it's not hard to see. Like if you look at your monitor, pay attention, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like these things are fucking amazing, but it's just something else, man. I can't tell. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm obviously you keep a bunch of them. You've been doing it for a long time. But at the end of the day, it's like something where I appreciate how much I learn off of each one every single day. And I have 4 now. I have a pair of Persinas right next to me.
Those
green
are awesome.
monitor. Have you worked with those before?
Yeah, in the past, I've worked with the green trees, blue trees, yellow trees. I've never seriously. I get them, and then they're a little on the timid side, and
yeah, they're nuts.
Yeah,
one of them. So I got this pair from one of my buddies, and it's in my trap Patreon. Shout out to homie Hector, and he's just been dying to work with chondros, and so I was like, dude, I have some really nice established adults, and you have this nice adult pair of green tree monitors. I love, obviously my addiction for monitors is growing. So I took them on, and, they're doing great now. I could miss them. And yeah, I would say like 5 out of 10 times they'll take off after so long of me missing them. But like they're handling me being in front of them a lot more than they used to. I'm like both of them were basking right here in front of me. And, before I had to put like a sheet or something in front because they would just go ballistic. Anytime I'd come in the room, they would just go crazy. You know what I mean?
Right.
But with your experience with green tree monitors, and having them paired and whatnot, like what's your recommendation, or not recommendation, but what were you doing interaction with them? Like how often were you, tongue feeding them, or were you just more like leaving them food? But what was your interaction like with the green tree monitors?
It's been actually over a decade, I guess, since I've had any of those. The main reason that I love those, and if I could pull it off easily, I would. But the main reason that I don't work on those species is the same reason that I don't work with a lot of Indonesian stuff anymore. They cannot take the cold, and so keeping them outside in the wintertime means I either have to bring them in, or try to jump through a lot of hoops to make an enclosure that will not subject them to sub 50-degree temperatures. So I ended up jettisoning I pretty much don't work with anything now that can't. I tend towards Australian stuff because it's pretty similar. That almost all of Australia gets cold in the winter, hot in the summer, so it's relatively easy to work on. But that said, I have helped people over the years work out some prasinus issues that they had, and generally, I mean, they're a prime candidate for target feeding. You need the females to be heavy, you need the males to be lean. I would absolutely keep them together. Everyone that I know that, and I'm sure there are people out there that do it differently. So it's nothing that I say should be taken as gospel. It's just my personal method. And suggestion was always just keep them in pairs, do the target feeding, make sure that you have, each one has its own ability to have its own, hollow log that it can get into to get away from each other and shit.
Hiding.
Yeah, it's all stuff like that, dude. It's really about just looking at them. They pretty much tell you what they need. If you see them hanging out, if you see them, hanging on the sides of your enclosures too much, then you know that you don't have enough stuff in the enclosures for them. That's generally a pretty common thing. If they're always hanging on the wire or hanging on the side, kind of looking out, then their enclosure's not right. And then, so generally adding more cage furniture, usually, cork logs, tree branches, stuff like that. You know what works really good for them too is those bird boxes. The little bird nest boxes. They love those things. Yeah. So there's a lot of common, easy, just, easy shit you can do. And it all works to some degree. There's really no formula for this stuff. There's a lot of people that like to believe there is, but there's not.
I mean, it's kind of like giving them the necessities to thrive, and heat's being mainly one of them, right? And if they're eating, and obviously what keeps them stressless is by giving them stuff to hide in or giving them stuff where they're not visible. And it's funny you say that, and I think the reason why I am kind of tripping out that they're here basking right now, like kind of next to each other, is because they're normally always hiding. I always catch their heads poking out of a piece of corkwood or something, like they're sleeping well.
Right.
But they'll kind of, sometimes I notice that when they do expose themselves, it's kind of they're waiting for me to miss them. I feel like I could be wrong, because
that's possible.
Yeah, some of them take it for a while. Like I'll miss them until they just get the hell out of Dodge, and they're like, all right, I'm done, But sometimes I'd be like for like 20 seconds, and they'll just sit there with their eyes closed, And last time I checked, when my eyes are sitting there in the shower closed, I'm enjoying it. I'm like, fuck, great,
Yeah,
but
go
ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, but what I was saying is I have a hide box that I keep at the very bottom of the enclosure. And there's like a hole, and I keep the water dish kind of covering it halfway, but I just poked my head in there. And there's all these tunnels, dude. It's crazy. Like there's all these and they don't look like, they look like they're perfectly digged. And I haven't really messed with it too much. Right. I just kind of poked my head in there, and just kind of checking it out. But what sort of behavior is that, or what is there? Should I be doing something different, or what do you think that is?
I mean, honestly, man, I don't know. I'd have to be there to look at it and see it in person and stuff. It's kind of a hard thing to diagnose over video and stuff. But I would say that sounds like a good sign. If it was me and I had them again, I would have the hide box on the bottom, which is what I provide. Like the lace monitors are pretty much an arboreal lizard as well.
Right.
So I provide the underground hiding area for them, and I also give them hiding areas that are elevated. So, you
Got
kind
it.
of give them both deal, because in the case of those, I would imagine they mostly would live in like hollow logs and stuff like that, hollow branches up in trees. Because I've collected giant spiny tail iguanas, pectinata, before, and those they're not exactly the same, but they're somewhat similar in their habits as far as their arboreal nature. And those pectinata, I used to catch a lot of them in these big rotted tree limbs, 50 feet off the ground. And you'd see, the pectinatas they bore out part of the tree, and then they live inside of it. And so, you see them with their heads sticking out. They climb up in the tree and catch them and stuff. But
Wow.
I would imagine it's probably pretty similar to the green tree and arboreal stuff as well. Like you were talking about with the water. The water thing is actually something I've been working on for about 5 years now, because I noticed it with the anoles. Hydration is a problem. The chameleon guys have always had issues with hydration. It's like, and even chondro guys and emerald guys, we all kind of report the same things, but nobody really. I mean, it's been a thought. I mean, lots of people have discussed the hydration thing, and some people have gone so far as to make rain chambers for their emeralds and chondros and stuff. But a lot of the things that they see and have seen in emeralds and chondros over the years are things that I was seeing in the anoles: prolapses, shedding issues, a bunch of different things. And I started looking into it a little more and discovered that, most of these animals get most of their water intake from dew at night. So, I mean, if you think about it, an arboreal snake is not going to have a fucking pool of water to drink from, but almost all those arboreal snakes look like a freaking dew catcher sitting in the tree. They have their coils all with their head down in it, and as the dew beads up and rolls down, they drink it that way. They drink it off of leaves, and the anoles work in a similar manner. They have channels in their top of their head that channel water down, and so I would imagine green trees may be prone to that in some aspect. If your cage is too dry, then you're going to run into that. So I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I don't have that much experience with Prasinus anymore, and the little bit that I did have was over a decade ago. But it's just, I would definitely look into the water aspect. Make sure your humidity is reasonably high.
Yeah, definitely.
And always have. But those monitors will drink out of fresh water bowls, and it's pretty simple. But
yeah, I had a good experience, when I was visiting RepTech and hanging out with Steven, a couple days in a row, taking care of their monitors, with Steven, seeing how he sprays the tree monitors and whatnot. And yeah, he kept those things hydrated, man. Those things, they stay sprayed for sure.
yeah,
and they seem to do great, and I give mine no less than 2 sprays a day, but it's spread out, and I feel like I don't need to give it any more than that, because what I have built doesn't have much ventilation, and like it has ventilation, but not a lot, because it keeps great humidity. I wanted to make sure the humidity wasn't an issue, like you were saying. But
well, one of the primary things that I discovered though is that, so when you're hydrating your animal and you're doing it in the daytime and you're doing it when the lights are on, right?
yeah,
It's like trying to fill a glass that has a hole in it. So as fast as you're putting the water in them, you're sucking it right back out, right? But most of these arboreal species get their water from nightly dew every night, right? So they're getting it at night when it's cooler, and then it allows them to take it in. It's not being taken out of them because they're not in the sunlight. They're in basically a very high humid environment at night,
right.
And so their body has a longer time to utilize it before it's pretty much sucked right out of them. So I started watering all the anoles at night,
Nice.
heavily on nights that it doesn't, because mine are outside. So sometimes the natural dew takes care of it, but it doesn't always happen. So I started watering everything at night, and then I tested it on stuff indoors, including bearded dragons. Pretty much anything from the desert gets its water intake from either breathing in water vapor or from dew. And in the desert, most nights the dew settles, covers everything. All the animals come out, drink it. So I started mimicking that, and it's made an enormous, and a huge difference. I've been working for 5 years now. I've been doing it. I think it's been 4 or 5 years. So I water everything at night, and it's just total game changer, man. So
yeah, no, that's a good point, because I also thought about that as well. It's like, I should probably do these second sprays closer to when I turn the lights off. You know what I mean?
yeah,
and give it a good one. And so I typically do morning and nighttime sprays.
yeah,
And like, what I do is that, the kind of glass, the concept, the water on the glass kind of gives me a good idea on how wet it is in there.
yeah.
And it usually, that glass is normally, stays wet, but that thing that crossed my mind immediately when you said that, what you're spraying, the heat is just, more likely taking most of what you're spraying off of it. You know what I mean? So, and it's just not there long enough, basically.
Yeah. So the trick is to get them really, heavily humid and wet at night so they can do with it, and then dry them out in the daytime. So it's kind of like a back and forth. So if my enclosures are not getting fully dry in the daytime, then I have to adjust for that, because they have to have a wet dry, just like they have a hot cold. And so, like I said, it's still something I'm screwing around with, but it does seem to be making a substantial difference with the anoles, and probably, if practiced on other species that are somewhat problematic, may be one of the missing factors. So I think as an industry, as a hobby, we've focused very intently on food and heat and stuff like that. This hobby's relatively in its infancy. It's only been around for about 40 or 50 years. So we have a long way to go, but I think we haven't focused really much on the hydration part. And I think the hydration part is a key element to figuring out, how to make things better. Anyway.
Yeah. What's the big difference between hatching, Porcina's eggs versus lace monitor eggs? Like temperature wise and whatnot, is it roughly around the same kind of, or how's that work?
Well, I've never hatched Porcinus, but all of the species of varanids that I've ever hatched, from crocs to, white throats and stuff like that, they've all been relatively the same, right around 84 degrees, 86 degrees. Although I've heard that and I have no experience with them, because water monitors are something I've stayed away from because they're huge, but
right.
It's just too big.
Dude,
but I've heard that if you hatch them at lower temperatures, that you get better results. So I don't really know. I've never done it, but for all the stuff that I have worked on, 84, 86 is a good spot. Lace or termite nesters, and anything that lays its eggs in a termite mound is a little more difficult to hatch, because you have to hatch it dry, but not too dry. The air humidity needs to be high, but the eggs can't be wet. So you use sim containers, and you have to do some management of the eggs. That's probably one of the where most people that do get good eggs fail on monitors, is that they fail to
incubate them.
They get the eggs, and then they put them in the incubator, and they think they're done, and it just doesn't work that way. Yeah, I check on those eggs constantly and have to.
So meaning there might be things you need to adjust as you look at the egg. You're like, oh shit, either more airflow or something, or drop the temp, raise the temp, whatever the fuck.
Yep, exactly. Sometimes, like the lace monitors that I got recently, they started to deflate a little because I had it too dry, so I had to cover them with cellophane and get the humidity back up. So now they're starting to fill back out again. So then at some point, I'm going to have to go back in there and get rid of the cellophane and add a hole. And then, they're a long incubation, man. It's
6 to 7 months. No, wait, more than 6 to 7 months or longer.
Depending on the species, they're 6 to 9 months. So species and temperature. Yeah, they're a long incubation. So, and a lot of shit can go wrong. But stuff that lays their eggs in termite mounds, the termites basically take care of those eggs for them. They keep termites control the temperature and the humidity inside of the mound. So, that's something that makes those eggs a little more difficult to hatch, as opposed to like a ball python or a colubrid that will just lay its eggs, and they're pretty easy. Throw them in a number of mediums, they all work.
Yeah.
And a variety of temperatures will work too, within some degree of those. A little less so with the ball pythons because they're more equatorial, but almost all the snakes are pretty straightforward. But monitors are a challenge all the way around. It's probably one of the things that I really like about them at this point, because they're constantly something that you have to pay attention to, and to be really good at them, they require quite a bit of I wouldn't say work, but attention to detail, I guess.
A little bit more strategy, right? Like you definitely got to put some fucking, some high, some thought into it versus just like you said, ball python eggs, throw those shit in a Nike shoebox and still hatch.
Right. Yeah, and that's how it is for the majority of the lizards that we produce. They're just, you get the eggs, you throw them in a vermiculite mix, you put them on a shelf, or you put them in an incubator, and you're done. You don't have to think about it. You come back when they hatch.
Right.
So, but the varanids are definitely different in that regard, and that makes them special, and that also keeps them from ever being produced on a mass scale. So the people that have them are people that generally really dig them, and
true passion behind them.
Yeah, they're definitely up there. So
now, I mean, what's your opinion really, Ron, with people jumping into a bigger monitor species? I mean, not that it's impossible, right? Like, I took my licks with the Nile monitor for 2 years, and then I realized, look, I'm gonna slow my roll, and then I got back in with the Bells phase, but I'm around good company, like I have good fucking advice all the time. But what's your opinion on that? Like, because like I said, this hobby's growing all the time. You primarily got people coming from the ball python side of things, and they want to get into shit. And I know this because all my Patreon members are savages. They all want to add stuff all the time. But I want to hear it from you. Like, what's your advice to somebody who wants to get into bigger monitors when they don't really have experience behind it? And while you're talking, I could hear you. So go ahead.
Yeah. No, man. I mean, I don't know. I try not to pass judgment on any of that stuff, only because, I mean, anybody can do this. Is just do the research. I mean, it's really none of it is rocket science. And nowadays, I mean, the internet has a ton of information, also has a lot of bullshit and just stupidity on it. So you have to be able to sift through the garbage to find the stuff. But I mean, if you do enough Google searches and you look around and look at what other people are saying about, where to look for, the best info and stuff, you can find it. You can learn it on your own. I mean, I'm completely self-taught. I started, I mean, I'm a fucking high school dropout, man. And I started when I was 16. I never stopped reading. I bought every book I could. I'm a hardcore PC gamer. So I had, PCs since they first came out, and so I was on the internet pretty quick, and then I got into all the
Ron doesn't cap either. When he says he reads books, he reads books. Like, look at the one he found here. Look at this one. Savage.
Yeah, that was one of the first herpetoculture books I ever bought. Yeah, I used to have a very big library.
That is so sick. How old were you around this time with this book? Do you recall?
I want to say that I was either 18 or 20. That had to be, I think, in like 90. So I would have been 22, I guess.
That's epic.
So yeah, I mean, that book was a big influence on me. That's where I realized really that you could actually make a career out of this. And then Hurricane Andrew forced me to start breeding. I was a commercial collector. Like I said, I was catching anoles and stuff and keeping a lot of pets. I had a lot of tegus and stuff. I was trying to work on breeding, but really there wasn't a lot of people making a living at it at that time.
Right.
And then the first big Daytona show, which was actually held in Orlando, started. I went to that, and I was shocked at what was possible. And then Hurricane Andrew destroyed all of my hunting places in Miami in '92, and that forced me to have to really. I either had to get a job or I had to focus on trying to make breeding reptiles work, and it was the best thing that could have happened to me. I mean,
right? Because it turned you into Ron St.Pierre, basically. Like that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly, dude. Every terrible thing that's ever happened to me has had a much better positive outcome after I licked my wounds and realized, oh man, this fucked me up. But one door's closed and another one open. So
yeah, man, I'm not ashamed of any fucking licks that I have to, take in this industry, because I'm realizing the more licks you take, the more better outcome you end up getting. Like, things come in waves all the time, and when something shits on you and you don't give up and you continue to pursue forward, then you get that next wave. And I'm telling you right now, man, I'm like fucking straight history of this. Like, I've had, so many goddamn experiences from, like, one of my biggest lessons learned was working with emeralds that were imported, import emerald. And just believing that, yes, these things are good. Oh, it threw up. That's fine. I could get it to not throw up again. Like that kind of stupidity. And it's just like, but it just made me learn. Now I preach it, and now I'm like, yo, it's not, just because it saves you fucking $700, don't go that route. You're gonna end up paying more either on vet bills or just destroying it. You know what I mean?
Oh, dude, I've done the same exact thing with emeralds. Exact same thing. Yeah. I tried 3 different times because I thought, oh fuck, I can beat this. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I would have been much better off just waiting for a friend of mine to produce some babies and then buying some babies and raise them up. But I wanted my own bloodlines. I wanted new stuff. So I tried to circumvent that, and every time I was like, why the fuck did I do this? I mean, it can work out, but you have to. I mean, really, you have to buy. I mean, there is this guy Harlan Wall that is.
Oh yeah, Harlan. What's up, Harlan? Shout out to Harlan.
He's made a pretty good name for himself by getting imports and getting them established. But I can only imagine the hoops that guy must jump through to get those things going, because they're difficult.
He's one of the few guys who just has had a quarantine system with numerous types of imports, because Harlan's the guy who's after the gem of the gems, and a lot of those come through imports, and sometimes you just got to fucking roll your sleeves up and roll the dice. And Harlan's definitely not scared to roll the dice. He's done it plenty of times. He's the one that's helped me a lot of times with shit that I've had to end up putting in the freezer. And I talked to Harlan a lot in the beginning, you know what I mean? And, he helped me with my first clutch, walked me through everything. Like, Harlan's the man. I will say that. Shout out to Harlan Wall. And I know I'm definitely not the only one either. Harlan's I've heard nothing but great things from people who've had conversations with Harlan and whatnot, and Harlan's obviously on the list of coming on the Trap Talk. It's about to happen, but yeah, shout out to Harlan Wall.
Yeah, I mean, he's made it quite a name for himself doing that. So it's a good gig. He's probably the best in the business at it. And for me, I'm better at doing it with getting lizard. Like most of my lizard projects, other than the Australian stuff, was like imports. Like a lot of the monitors and stuff that I've worked over time, and a lot of the iguanid species and shit like that, those were all imports. But getting lizards established out in Florida, because I can put them outside in the sun and give them everything they need, is like super simple, and it's been pretty easy. But emerald tree boas have beat my ass every time.
Dude, once I fucking just stopped going import, like I actually started getting lucky with getting some United States Captain born and bred. And when I was like realizing I didn't have to be careful what size prey I fucking feed them because they're legit healthy, I was like, oh my God. Like, I had emeralds I was raising that were only on fucking mice, because if I gave them a rat, they would throw it up. That's not good. You know what I mean? Like, emerald should be able to eat a rat with no issue. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but that's why I was like, fuck this, even though I once had about 12 emeralds and now I only have 4, I'm still cool. These are 4 really nice established emeralds that I just been growing up. And, the day when I add another one will be the day when it's a United States Captain born and bred. I'll never fuck around ever again. Knock on wood, I say this, but either way, quarantine process should be something not to be skipped. And, I got, James Opdale, right? The homie James. I got one of his. Do you know who James Opdale is?
No, I don't think so. But
really, really awesome chondro breeder, like legit chondro breeder. And I have one of his productions basically that was in somebody else's hands for about 2 years. But regardless, that thing's beautiful. But I have to nido test it 3 times, and it's only had 1 nido test, and it passed, right? But that thing's fucking in its own room above a washer and dryer, away from everything until more nido test comes. You know what I mean? But that's just what you have to do, man. Like, it's no joke with these fucking chondros, man. And, you know, I haven't heard too many stories about emeralds getting nido, but, you know, this nido shit's not to be messed with, you know, it's fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, I think nido's been around a long time, and we just never, you know, nobody caught it, you know. I mean, because a lot of the, you know, I've seen people have their colonies crash over the last 40 years or so. It's not like it, you know, I think it was just we finally discovered what it was, but I think prior to that, it's just been in there. I think it's always been a part of the U.S. collections. I don't think it's going anywhere.
Right.
You know, it's just one of those things, man. A lot of species, pretty much all of them, have something that they can, and some of them are unaffected, and you never know, you know, and then you get some that it's probably different strains, actually, is really what it is. So if you have a strain in your collection that, you know, your animals are living with, then you bring in another one from another population that has a slightly different strain, and it's not lethal to them, but it's fucking lethal to yours. And so that's a thing that the mice breeder, like all the rodent breeders that I know, they won't bring in rodents from any other source. So once they have their colonies, they don't bring in other people's rodents because they can actually wipe their entire colonies out. And I think we're seeing that with herpetoculture now. I mean, you know, we have all these breeders. Everybody has their own little island, you know. So I have my island, and you have your island, and this guy over here. And so, you know, we're getting whatever viruses they have, and everything has fucking viruses. I mean, humans carry shit tons of them around. Everything does. Viruses are just part of life. So there's really only so much you can do, and it's a problem, and you just have to be careful. But I mean, apart from, you know, implementing like some CDC level strategies where you hardcore test everything, and even then, most of those tests they're not foolproof either. So they're relatively reliable, but that's why you have to get multiple, you know, 3-4 tests and hope that, you know, you got it right, and you can get false positives and false negatives. And there's a lot. I used to have a pretty serious interest in viruses, so I've read a lot of research just on my own, you know, but because in 1992 I imported. I used to dabble in some imports, and I brought in a shipment from Africa of ball pythons, and there was 100 plated lizards in that shipment. And
100 what lizards?
These giant plated lizards. They were just this, you know, like a 18-inch. They're just an 18-inch lizard that comes out of Africa.
Who are the people you were associating yourself with back then? Like any OGs that are still around now, like that you can name drop?
I mean, I pretty much know everybody, dude. So I mean,
like 90s and shit. I want to know the people who you're kicking with in the 90s. Like that's what I'm just curious. Like who were the ones you're in the 90s?
I mean, because I was in Miami, you know, strictly Reptiles, Mike Van Ostrin, those guys are all friends of mine. You know, and you know, I mean, I know everybody. I mean, Mark Bell and Eugene Bissett, and you know, a lot of the original Snake guys, and but we all know each other on some level, and we've all, you know, hung out at Daytona shows and shit like that. Honestly, dude, so many people I couldn't even recall them all right now. But that's part of the cool thing about, you know, that's one of the perks of being in it for as long as I have been. I've gotten to know a lot of cool people, and the community was a lot tighter back then. There was a lot less of us, but you know, it's grown, and it's been overall positive. I think it needed to. If it didn't grow, I think we would have been squashed by legislation a long time ago. And I think the thing that's keeping us alive is our size and how much cash we bring in. So at the end of the day, that's what's going to save us, is having the Petcos and the PetSmarts that sell all the, you know, the bearded dragons and leopard geckos and ball pythons and all that shit. Because if you don't have that, then there's nothing to save you from the animal rights groups that sneak in some shit in the bill, and then the next thing you know, you're a fucking outlaw because all your shit's banned.
Yeah.
So, and that's a constant and been a constant thing, but it's definitely gotten worse the last 2 years. I have never, in all the years I've been here, I've never seen the amount of legislation that is just being thrown at us at all angles right now.
But it's like you said, you know, even though shit's worse than what you've seen, people are fighting harder than you've seen too. So it's we just
I agree.
keep fighting, like you're saying. Don't fucking, you know what I mean? Like we just gotta keep being on top of our shit. And I feel like that goes to spreading this down to the next generation of keepers who come in. Like it's our job to make sure that we're on top of fucking passing this knowledge down, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we really just need to continue to build a strong lobby, which is what USARC is. Everybody needs to contribute whatever they possibly can. That doesn't have to be a lot of money. If everybody just kicks in whatever they can afford, just a little bit here and there, it'll all add up, because there's a fucking lot of us now. It's not like back in the day when there was, you know, I don't know, 10, 20,000 of us, maybe. Now there's fucking...
We're fucking we're killing it now. I'm telling you right now, bro. We got celebrities involved. Like, man, this shit is booming, bro. Like, I can't. It's only gonna get bigger. I'm telling you.
Yeah, it is crazy how many people have come in, have contributed, have added to the whole thing. And yeah, the people sometimes pick out the few negative things, but I think for the most part, it's been a net positive and quite substantially. So, like I said, it's all good. I think as an industry, I think we're relatively, I don't want to say we're safe, as long as we keep fighting and stay vigilant, stay on top of it, keep USARC going, I think we're okay. I think we'll get backed up by some of these large corporations that have a lot more power, because, I mean, so the thing that drives our business, my girlfriend is Heather Moy, so we're Fairy Tale Dragons, and that's her company. But we produce, you know, 4,000 dragons a year, which isn't a lot, but it's a number. And those go into the, you know, the pet trade. She retails a lot of them go wholesale. But those bearded dragons are, you know, hundreds of thousands of them go into Petco and PetSmart. And while that does, again, have some negative things to it, it is also a net positive for everyone involved, because it brings in new people. Some mom goes in and buys their kid their first lizard. It's a bearded dragon. It does well. The kid, you know, says, "Oh, this is cool. I'll buy a ball python." The next thing you know, you got another herper, and so it just keeps going. So all that shit is positive.
My first ball python came from a pet shop. I think it was like, what, 91? 92. Right. I was 6 years old. Fuck, I'll never forget that shit, man. I was so happy.
Yeah, and so did mine. I mean, when I was a kid, I bought lots of shit. I bought a reticulated python at a pet store. I paid $44 for it. I still remember that. So I had to save for 3 weeks.
Pet shops back then, no, I didn't mean to cut you off, but pet shops back then were like that was like going to a zoo, man. Like, it was so exciting. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because it's like, oh my God, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, especially in the 90s, like, I'll never forget, like, my ball python was the first snake, and I had this book, and I obsessed over this book. It was just like this OG ball python book. I wish I still had it, but you know, snakes were just always something of interest to me, man. Like, always, just like, I always said to myself, it's not common that you should be having this. I don't think a lot of people fuck with this, but me, I was like, I want it. Like, I'm all in. And but it just wasn't, like, I didn't know nobody else. Like, I was the only, my dad thought it was cool, but none of my friends, nobody else kept a snake. I was even in Southern California. Like, we have a lot of fucking herps in this area, you know what I mean? But everyone thought I was weird for keeping a snake. But to me, it always just stuck to me, and I always had a passion for it. But yeah, like you said, man, the 90s were just different, you know?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was like that for me in Miami as a kid. I mean, I really didn't know anybody. Well, you know, I mean, I had friends that used to hang out at my house because I had, you know, giant snakes and shit, and they would go. There was a little Santeria store near where I lived, and so the fucking neighborhood kids would go to the store and buy these chickens that were supposed to be sacrificed for whatever was going on over there. They would bring them to my house, going, "Can we feed the fucking python?" And one day, some kid showed up at my front door with a fucking goat, and I'm like, "What the hell?" You know, I was like 16 at the time too, but I had this 18-foot retic in this huge display case that my dad found.
A goat? That's savage.
Yeah, he showed up at my house with a goat, and I'm like, "Get the fuck out of here! We're not putting that goat. We're not." First of all, that snake couldn't eat that goat, and second of all, he's like, "Oh, I saw it on TV. I'm telling you, it could eat." I'm like, Get it out. I think he stole it.
Everyone has that one sick friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then he didn't know what I think he stole the goat from the fucking Santeria store. So he walked out of my front gate, my mom's front gate, and then next thing I know, I see the goat walking down the street by itself. He just let it go in Miami, and
Savage.
I was like, man,
classic Miami, bro.
Yeah, that's Miami, man.
I'm not gonna lie. Listen, I don't want to talk shit about Florida or Fort Lauderdale or Miami area. I had a great time, but what the fuck is up with the drivers down there, bro? Like, I just couldn't. Like, for one thing, okay, your guys is like every street is like a highway with multiple stoplights, and everyone chooses to go under 30 miles per hour, and I don't know why, right? But then you have people that just randomly stop and just like, bro. Oh my God. Okay, check this out. Well, let me share this story. My first night there, we get there. My boy Sock's like, hey, are you guys hungry? And I'm like, yeah, man, we're hungry. He's like, go to Miami Subs. It's 24 hours. It's really good. I'm like, all right, Miami Subs. Let's go. Go to Miami Subs. Line's pretty big. Okay. And I'm in there. And then I notice like fucking 10 other cars are behind me. And I'm like, damn, this line's not booming. So employees come out and like 4 cars down, they start pounding on the window. This motherfucker who was waiting in line passed out at the wheel, waiting to order his food. So everyone's honking, like, and this is at like midnight, bro. The guy finally wakes up after them pounding on the window, skirts off, hits a pole, and just like, it's like a scene, bro. And I'm just like, dude, and I'm like, and I'm so hangry. All I want to do is eat, right? And all this shit goes down. And that's my first night in Fort Lauderdale. And then everything after that, bro, like, just the driving experience, which I'm lucky enough to have a friend to say, hey, here are my keys, bro. Do what you got to do. But I almost regret doing that because this shit was just insane. Like, insane, bro.
Yep.
Like, people, I don't know. And I'm from California. People are fucking dickhead drivers out here, but it's just complete. Everyone's in a rush over here. Over there, everyone's on fucking Quaaludes and shit. They're just like, like just staring into the distance and just like everyone just seemed to be on something, bro. Like, it was crazy. Anyways, shout out to Florida.
Yeah. No, you nailed it, man. That's I mean, I live in Orlando now, and it's the same shit over here. It's not quite as bad, but yeah, for some reason, fucking Dade and Broward County down there, man, you have people that fucking putz around at like 20 miles an hour, don't have any, and then you have assholes that are trying to do 80 and like a 50. So
yeah,
you have
out of nowhere, and you're just like, oh, are you going slow or fast? Like, I'm confused. Like,
yeah, and it creates some very interesting traffic incidents. Fuck. Yeah, I was so glad I left there in '99. We moved to Palm Beach and out in a place called Loxahatchee, and it was very rural and very different than living in the city. And I honestly don't miss Miami at all because I live in a big city now. Orlando is a big fucking city too, but we live out on like 5 acres and shit, and I do not fucking leave the house when for any reason. And if I do, it's when it's between hours that there's no traffic. Like, I have very small windows where I'll go out and get food or whatever. But fuck, man, I do everything I can to avoid being on some, because we have I-4 here, and I-4 is a fucking hellhole to drive on. It's full of tourists that are lost and full of idiots that are in a hurry and full of people that just don't know what I don't even know how to describe it, but it is constantly fucking accidents and constantly backed up.
It's just like I just don't have enough. I just don't have enough time for it, bro. Like, like my boy lived across the street from a gas station, but I still have to drive 2 miles to do a U-turn. Okay. And then there's like only one entrance into the gas station, which is around all these other stores. And I'm like, it takes me 30 minutes to get gas. And I just want to get gas. Like, oh man, and obviously visiting places, you're always in a hurry. There's a schedule, right? So I was just late to everything. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, I don't know what to do, but I still had fun. And I will tell you what, bro, Boca, fuck, that place is gorgeous, man. Yeah, I've never, I'm from California. We have La Jolla, we have Point Loma, we have Sunset Cliffs. Yeah. I see gorgeous waters, but man, that Florida water, man, is different. Like, it's just really blue. It's just pretty, man. Shout out to Tyler Nolan. He showed us a really good time on his boat, and I got a good taste of Florida like that. That right there was breathtaking. I'll say that right there. I see why people go to Florida, like, who just want to say, fuck, I'm retiring and I want to live like I'm in a tropical area all the time. That's Florida. Florida's hella tropical.
Right. Yeah, in '93, Alan Rapace flew me out to hang out with him for a week, and and he lived in La Jolla, so I up on the top of a hill that overlooked the ocean, and
How gorgeous is that?
I was like, man, this is fucking badass. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really wanted to move to San Diego, but there was just no. After spending a week there, I was like, man, this is so much better than Miami. Yeah.
I mean, dude, I hate to be biased because people hear like, wow, you know, you're always saying fucking San Diego's the best. Dude, preferably for me, like I lived in Seattle, I lived in New York, I lived in Texas. I've now visited Florida. I'm okay. But there's no fucking place like San Diego. Yeah. I mean, just because like California is a big state, right? And there's definitely places up north that just get cold as shit. And where I'm at, it's literally like tropical, but it does get colder than tropical, but still stays tropical. Like I don't ever want to leave because how dialed in everything is ambient heat wise for everything. Like I don't have to do much work to keep my shit on point with their heat, you know? I mean, the only time I ever, you know, turn on heat for a snake is when I see an ovulation or something. Okay. Other than that, Ron, everything is just, it goes with what the climate is outside. You know, it's awesome, you know?
Yeah, no, I know. It's like, I mean, plus it's dry. I mean, coming from Florida, the first time we went out to Sandfire Dragon Ranch, which is Bob Mayhew's place. And he had these big greenhouses where they bred frogs in. So we're out in the desert and shit, and it's all dry. And everybody's bitching about the heat. To me, it feels like it was like in the 70s, right? And I'm like, how hot is it? They're like, oh, it's like 95. And I was like, the fuck out of here. This feels good. Yeah. But then you go into his greenhouses and they felt just like, it was like I was back in Florida because he had all this water and stuff, and it was real humid. It was so weird. But yeah, man, I mean, if I could afford to live out there, I would definitely. It's just, man, everything out there is so expensive. I don't know how you guys do it.
That's the only thing in my head that like writes something on the board like we might have to leave San Diego is because how fucking right now it's a buyer's market. Or wait, no, it's a seller's market. My bad. It's everything's overpriced right now. Like it's so what used to be expensive before is even more expensive right now, and it's kind of like, man, like we went to go visit Washington and we were seeing fucking the most gorgeous property for like not even close to the price what you'd pay here. But then you're going to Washington. Now you're going to a fucking, you know, which rain is good, but it's cold rain, you know? So, but like, you know, God damn, this is paradise cost, bro. You know what I mean? It's not easy.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's going on in Florida too. All people are moving here in droves right now. And the properties are just through the roof. Yeah. It's crazy how much everything's gone up. So I don't think it's going to last very long, but we'll see. Because happened in 2006, and it appears to be the same kind of shit. So it's gonna pop. I was fortunate enough, I sold my Palm Beach house like 2 months before it popped, and so I was able to bounce out. I made a huge for me. I grew up working class, so I've never made a lot of money, but in that instance, I paid 99 grand for my house in 99. I sold it for 330 in 2004. Yeah, so and I paid mostly cash. I had put 50% down when I bought it, so I had a lot of equity in it, and we bounced out of there in a good spot, and which actually saved my ass because my Tegu farm had collapsed at the same time, so that was just draining all my money, and so I had to sell that.
Collapsed? What do you mean by that?
Well, after the albino Tegus were born in it was either 2000 or 2001.
Were you the first one to do that or something? Because those are amazing. You were. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, blue Tegus are mine. Albino blue Tegus were mine.
There is. That's so sick. I love seeing them.
So anyway, so when those were born, I had this brilliant and in hindsight incredibly stupid fucking idea that, well, if I have 30 pairs of Tegus and I'm doing real well, now I have these albinos, I should ramp up. So I ramped up from basically 50 adults or so to 250, and the result of that, I just couldn't do it. I started, my production went down. I was cutting costs on food because Tegus eat a lot, and so like when I only had 25 pairs, I was giving them a very varied diet. I was spending a lot of money on it, but it was really high quality. And then when I had that many, then I ended up trying to go with like a turkey diet kind of thing, primarily with less rodents and less, fresh fruit, stuff like that. And it just, the whole thing was bad. And then my production went in the shitter. I was stubborn. So I kept thinking, okay, well, it's, in another year it'll click in, and another year went by and nothing happened. And another year went by and nothing happened. By 2004, I was pretty much completely broke, was losing my house, the whole thing, because 250 tegus are expensive to maintain.
Yeah.
And so eventually I said, fuck it. And I sold everything off. I sold the house, moved out. My parents owned 10 acres in Central Florida. We went and bought a mobile home, put it on there. I lived off the money that I made for a while. I actually wasn't going to come back to the reptiles. I was really considering quitting. I was going to video game for a living. I had been making money doing that. And so I was going to set up, I was just going to do that for a while. And then my buddy Steve Moy, who's the manager of Reptile Industries, which is Mark Bell's company, came out to see me. He's like, what the fuck you doing, man? He's like, you can't just sit around and do nothing. And, you need to get back on the horse and start breeding, so we need bearded dragons to start breeding lizards for us again. So I started doing that. I set up bearded dragons, and eventually once I had them going in a couple years, and I was supplying Reptile Industries, and then I started getting other cool stuff and, got back in the game. But yeah, for about 3 years there, I did nothing. And then it was, other than bearded dragons.
Do you think you just hit like you think you just hit like a stage of depression or something? Or like, do you think you were just going through some little funk at that time of your life?
Oh yeah, dude. I'm like the fucking poster boy for anxiety and depression. So I keep myself out of it by very large amounts of all black coffee and fucking always chasing carrots. So
bro, black coffee's because listen, I came from a life of just partying my ass off. Like, like cocaine was my drug of choice for a long time.
Right.
But I came to realize like that was just a waste of time, because I always had this natural energy, you know what I mean? So, but like sometimes you just don't know what to do with your energy sometimes. And I felt like I lost a lot of it. And then I met black coffee. Black coffee is my fucking go-to. I love it. I feel great. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'm like, God, at night, I'm like, why'd I drink that? That's not good.
Right.
2 a.m.
Yeah,
still researching,
It's fucking 9 o'clock at night, and I just fucking, polished off one.
Me too. 7:30.
But yeah, dude, I bleed that shit at this point. But
fuck it.
Yeah,
I could be doing way worse. I tell myself I could be doing 100 different worse things that I no longer do. And black coffee, I'm okay. You know what I mean? I eventually do go to sleep, and I do wake up feeling fine. I just drink some more. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Man. It was just a wall. It was part stupidity, part fucking stubbornness, part fucking arrogance. It was just a concoction of stupid ideas. I kept thinking, those albinos were born, and I thought, oh man, I finally hit it. This is like hitting the lottery. This is the right project. And I fucked it all up. I look back at the big projects, that project, that was a total mismanagement. I could have been living very well off of that project for a very long time, but I fucked it all up. And, I learned from it. I'll never do it again. And I now have caps on what I do. The only thing we have a large amount of really is the bearded dragons, and really, in the grand scheme of things, there are people out there, companies that produce 250,000 dragons a year or so. We only produce around 4,000, and that's just enough to power all the weird and cool shit that we work on. Like Heather has a bunch of projects, banana spiny tails and xenogammas, and all kind of. We have a lot of blue tongue skink morphs.
Yeah, dude, definitely have some sick
species.
Yeah,
we've got different species, ossifitalis, nigrolatia. We've got albinos. We have hypo patternless ones. We have a lot of blue tongues, and we have a lot of Cunningham skinks. All this cool shit. It's basically powered off the back of the bearded dragons, because the bearded dragons are reliable. We can, make a living off of those. And then if the other stuff produces, then we had a really good year. And if it doesn't, well, then, it's still all right. So that's,
what would you say? What would you say, Ron, your game plan is with the laces? Obviously you're doing great things. So if everything in a perfect world were to be a success, like how many clutches are you looking to produce each year with the laces? Like where do you want to take that?
Well, with big Varanids, I have a self-imposed cap of 5 pairs. So that's it. So we'll eventually have 5.5 lace monitors, and then I'll just, as I start working more on more colors and stuff, probably eventually we'll replace some of those adults with offspring and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it's something, again, 5 pairs is a good number, I think. If a few go every year and you get multiple clutches out of those, but it's not something you want to make hundreds of, and you know what I'm saying?
Even that many's a fucking, like, bro. 5.5. Yeah. You better be on your shit. You know what I mean? Like that's everyday work.
Yeah, I mean, outdoors. That's the one big plus, is that when they're outdoors, you don't have to clean. You don't have to do any of that stuff. As long as their enclosures are huge, and your density is small, they're basically just big bioactive things. So all the insects and stuff, it all takes care of it. So, so that in that regard, it's not really, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of the cap. Eventually there will be 5.5 Spencer, 5.5 Mertens, 5.5 Lace, and that's, as long as Florida doesn't fucking ban them before I get finished with this, but which I don't think is going to happen. Yeah, but that Tegu ban kind of knocked us for a loop down here. So
let's get into the snakes, man, if you don't mind, because I got questions. I'm looking at some of your boa pics, which I'm going to upload. But let's talk about the blood boa is one of the things that you brought in, or right? Or can we talk about that real quick?
Yeah. No. So back when I was going through shipments for ball pythons, I was also going through shipments for boa constrictors, and I think it was in 90 or 91. I can't remember the exact year, but it was one of those years. A buddy of mine named Brian Blackwood brought in a shipment from El Salvador, and on the floor of I went to drop off a bunch of, he was buying like 100 night anoles from me a week, which is big fucking anoles. So I was going over his place to drop those off, and on his warehouse floor, he had all these bags from a shipment he had just taken out of the shipping crates, and they were moving around. I was like, hey man, what's in there? And he's like, oh, it's, boa constrictors from El Salvador. There was, I don't remember the number, but it was like 6 or 8 bags of them, I think. And I wasn't going to go through those because those were Central Americans. And at the time, no one gave a shit about the Central American boas. Everybody wanted Colombians or true red tails. So I almost passed on it, but my ex-wife was really insistent. She's like, no, we should go through them, and look at them. And, and I was arguing with her. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to fucking do that, but she forced me to do it. And the first bag I popped open, it was either the first or second bag, there were 4 solid red fucking boas in the bag. And I was like, holy shit, what the hell? And then I thought, well, maybe this is natural variation with this particular
species.
Type of boa. And then I opened another bag and there was no more. And every bag, there was only 4. But so we ended up going through the entire shipment, and in that shipment, I pulled out 3 black-tailed anathoristic boas, that may have been the first ones of those found at the time. The 4 blood boas, and then 3 boas that I believe were either hypo or T positive albinos, but I didn't really know that at the time. And yeah, that's some of the blood boas that a friend of mine produced that I bought back for a while, and those are super hypo bloods, I think.
I fucking love these. I have a hypo het blood. That's a male, and I've been trying to produce him. He's going on 3 this year, and I saw a lot of courting this year, but I don't, obviously I didn't see any, no locks or anything like that. But I'm in love with the blood. Hypo blood, I would say, like, this is my cup of tea right here when it comes to boas. This is my favorite shit.
And they're nice because they stay small.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Dude, my male's, I mean, he's 3 and he's not that big at all. Like, and I'm just like, dude,
Yeah.
like, I love it, you know? Like they stay good size.
Yep. So they so anyway, I got them. We took them home. I grew them out because they were babies, and then like 2 years later, we bred the blood boas together, and out popped more fucking blood boas, and I was like, holy shit!
Wow.
So I started selling them, and for about 10 years, I tried to get people interested in them, but I generally got the same thing. Everybody was like, oh, those are they're not Colombian, they're Central American boas. They're too small. Nobody, you know, a couple people did buy into them, but for the most part, they were pretty tough sell, even at $2,000 for a brand new boa morph.
Right.
So around 99 or so, 2000, I guess it was, I sold my Motley boa project, and then I was like, okay, well, I got rid of the Motley boas, and I sold that project to Jeremy Stone, and then I decided to go ahead and sell the blood boa project as well, and then you know, I kind of hadn't gone to reptile shows for about 5 or 6 years. I was just kind of laying low doing my own shit. And then in like 2008, I think it was, or 2010, I went to my first like Daytona show in like years. And I go into this show and I see all these fucking blood boas on people's tables for like $8,000, $10,000. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, I couldn't give these fucking things away, and now they're like a big deal. And what it was is, yeah, I was just way too early on that project, and it took the right people that were, you know, I'm really not a business person. I'm a guy that builds systems and figures out how to get shit to breed and do that. So business is not my gig, but yeah, I think that was part of it. I think I just and I think I was too early. I think it took some changes in the market. I think it took the ball python thing, actually, because when the ball python thing really took off, the cage makers developed those CV70 systems that everybody uses, and turns out that a small boa works real well in a CV70. So everybody already had the systems. Now you've got a little boa that's a morph that's pretty and can fit in the same system as the ball python. So the market on those just kind of exploded, and you know, so I mean, it's cool. It's kind of funny to see. I kind of laugh about it. It's not like I don't, you know, by that time I'd already long moved on anyway, and I was doing other things, but it was just kind of weird. I kind of laugh at that, and that's kind of like a running joke with all my buddies, is that this happened to me on a few times, that I've developed something. I've been too far ahead of the game, and then I'm by the time I get out of it, you know, and it becomes big, I'm no longer in it. So I'm not doing that anymore. That's another lesson that I've learned. That's why I think the Anolis podior, those big, brightly colored blue and yellow anoles, I think I'm ahead of the game on that. I think I'm
sure
5 to 10 years.
People are talking about those. People love those. I'm telling you right now, those are definitely, you know, obviously, you know, you're going to ride those to the end for sure.
Yeah. So that's why that's kind of a thing I'm doing, and we're just kind of, you know, we're taking it slow. I'm not rushing them out. I'm not, because I think if I were to produce, you know, a few hundred of them right now, I don't know what the market would bear. So we're just taking it easy. We have no more than 10 pairs of any of that stuff, and we're just kind of riding it and see what happens. But I think you know, I think had I come out with those, you know, 5 years ago, I think it would have been a totally different thing. But I think now the market's finally maturing. I've been working on those big anoles since 2013, so
sick. Respect.
It's been 8 years. So I figured 12 to 13 years is about, if looking at my other projects, that's about the albino blue tegus. They were hard to sell in the beginning, and then you know, and then a few years ago they were huge. So, and they were selling for way more than I sold them for back in when I fucking produced the first ones. So it was just too early, and that's cool. I
want to talk about breeding boas real quick. Back when you were breeding, you know, the hypo bloods and whatnot, but with the Central Americans, the smaller ones, what was the heat you were keeping them at? And then when it came to breeding, did you do any kind of lowering when it came to the temps or anything like that? Or like, if you don't mind, I want to pick your brain about that.
Yeah, I mean, actually, at the time, I was breeding true red tails, Suriname and Guyanas, the blood boas, which were El Salvador, and a variety of Colombian boas and morphs, and Amarilli. So, and I just had them. I lived in Miami at the time. My house had no air conditioning or central heating or anything like that. I kept them in a room that I kept the windows open most of the year.
Mm-hmm.
It got whatever temperature Miami got. So some nights, I closed the windows on the cold, really cold nights, but that room still got in the 60s.
Right.
In the daytime, that room got 95, low 90s maybe on really hot days. So they had that kind of a swing. And man, I produced boas very easily every year. Like It was no issue. And I didn't use any kind of supplemental heat or anything. I just had them in vision cages stacked to my fucking ceiling, and they were rocking in there. So actually, at the time, I used Neodacia cages, which God, that's a long time ago.
Because I don't technically let my room get like the trap, right, where I have the boas and the ball pythons. That room doesn't technically ever get hotter than 90. I would say I make sure it doesn't get hotter than 90. But do you feel like giving the boas hotter source of heat than 90 could help them with breeding or whatnot? Like, do you feel like just having 90 isn't enough for them?
I mean, honestly, I've seen people do it so many different ways with them. I'm not really sure how much that really matters, as long as you're within some sort of a fairly wide range. But like I said, I generally, because there's no way to be absolutely sure, because your animal can't tell you, hey, I need this.
Right.
So I do is, yeah. So what I do is I try just to provide a range and see what they use. I mean, it can't hurt. You can throw a hotter thing in there, and if they use it, then they're telling you basically that they need it. If they're spending too much time on it, then they're probably not getting hot enough. If they're only spending a couple minutes on there and getting off, then that maybe you have it too hot, but maybe that's all they need. See, I don't know, man. There's not a lot of definites. Yeah, there's not a lot. I mean, there's a lot of things that people say, and everybody has their kind of beliefs, but I try to not let any beliefs seep into my brain in any way. I try to remain agnostic about every single aspect of life. And the reason for that is that once you take a belief and you put it in, then you usually stop progressing, stop thinking about stuff. It kind of leads to this thing where you think, okay, this is how it is. And then you that kind of sits over to the side. Whereas if you remain agnostic about everything, you're constantly reassessing. Oh, is this working? Is that working? Can I make this better? Is this really the way I think it is? So those kind of definites, I can't really honestly give you, because there's so many variables. Your room is going to be different. Your husbandry methods are going to be different. Your caging methods are going to be different. The way you interact with them is going to be different. The size of your water bowl is going to be different. All that stuff changes variables in a little bit of a way. So it's kind of like you just have to sit in front of your stuff and then just constantly kind of tweak those knobs until you get it to where you feel like it should be. Beyond like some kind of rough parameter that, again, is fairly large. So make sure they have some heat, make sure they're acting normally. As long as you see them thermoregulating and stuff like that, where they get on the heat, they get off the heat, kind of back and forth, usually they're all right. And that's really all you need to do. I've yet to find anything where there was like a hard, fast rule. So
right. Day by day, man. Shit happens when it happens.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. That's kind of the way I do this. So
I have like I literally only have one male. Like I had a handful of boas at one point, and then I was like, you know what? Like my passion was just going a different direction. So I let go of a lot of the bigger ones I had, and I just kept the hypohet blood and this other motley T positive albino and this other sharp sunglow that I have. Like those are I love them, but I've only tried pairing the same pair twice. And like I said, the first year, the male wanted nothing to do with her. And then this year, he was all over her all the damn time. I just never really saw a lock. But, like I said, maybe it just takes time. Maybe next year will be the year. Who fucking knows? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, and just because you didn't see a lot doesn't mean. I mean, I have lots of stuff that produces every year that I've never seen breed at all. Like,
but I'm I'm in my room all the time, bro. Like, I have problems. You know what I mean? Like, especially because now I do this full time due to fucking COVID and whatnot. So, like, you know, but you're right. It could still. I mean, I'm not in there when I'm asleep. You know what I mean? Like, it could happen. Like, you know, like I've had a couple. You know, I just don't have that confidence because I don't. You know, I have over 20 pairings going with my ball pythons, and I feel like I know them a lot better because I have so much going on versus just having one pair of the boas. You know what I mean? So it's dude, I don't know.
Well, the one thing I will say is that when I started having a lot of success with boas, it was when I put them together in the quote breeding season, which for the boas in Miami was basically at the end of summer. So I would put them together at the end of summer, and then I would not separate them until the female was definitely gravid.
Even food wise, how would you feed them?
Only to feed them. Yeah. So when I would feed them, I would split them, feed them, and then put them right back together.
How often were you feeding them? I'm sorry. How often were you feeding them when you were breeding them? If you don't mind, do you recall?
Generally, I don't use a schedule for anything, so it's kind of variable, but it was roughly, maybe twice a month.
Okay, so once every 2 weeks.
Yeah. Sometimes they'd go 3 or 4 weeks. Sometimes they would be, and then sometimes I would feed, like 2 or 3, like back to back, like every week. So I kind of vary that up, only because I feel like, and again, it's just sort of a cursory attempt at somewhat mimicking what might take place in the wild. They're not going to, they're not sitting around and some guy doesn't come by once a week and say, hey, have your rat and hand it to them. In the wild, they got to hunt for the shit. It's variable. Sometimes they may have an abundance of food. Sometimes they may have nothing. They could go, they could get a prey item every 4 days, back to back for a couple times. And then they might go a month before they see something again. So I kind of add that chaos factor into it. And I wonder if that doesn't, I noticed that in a lot of times the people that are the most diligent about sticking to schedules also are the ones that tend to not produce that well in a lot of cases. And I often wonder if that's not maybe because there's no chaos involved. And without chaos involved, then the animals don't feel the need to procreate because, chaos spurs that in wild animals. It says, hey, you might fucking die tomorrow. So you better spread your seed now or, else. And I mean, that's kind of the motivating factor for a lot of life forms. I mean, it's even for us. So, I don't know. So it's just I just add a little bit of a twist to that. But again, right. I don't know how much it actually helps, or maybe it doesn't do anything. You know what I'm saying? It could, but regardless, 2 a month is about what I would feed him during the breeding season. I tend not to feed at all during the
summers, like the fasting, like
several months out of the year, like the time where they wouldn't get any food at all.
Now, do you do that? Do you do that primarily with all your snakes? Like, is there like a cycle that you go through where you're just like, all right, nothing's being fed for a couple months, or do you do anything of that with all your snakes, or is it just with certain ones?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any boas anymore.
Right.
But everything that I do have here is all on a schedule where basically once November hits, nothing here gets fed until mid-February. So everything goes off, but almost everything here is outside. And by that time, almost everything is in some sort of a brumation, hibernation type cycle. So everybody goes off feed. Most of the time, though, it's not like something I force on them. They just stop on their own. Like a lot of the stuff here stops eating in late August, early September. And by November, pretty much 100% of all the lizard species we have here, and even things like the Mexicana spilotes that we work on, they all are not eating at all by then. So,
you bred ball pythons before too, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So what's your opinion with doing that with ball pythons? You think that's beneficial as well when it comes to having successful breeding seasons, to maybe just fast them, like what's your opinion on that?
I mean, that's basically how I used to do it, and they bred just fine. But some people don't; they breed just fine. Ball pythons fall into that category along with like leopard geckos and bearded dragons and a couple other things that you could pretty much do all kinds of things to them, and they're going to produce. And they're like very well suited to captivity for whatever reason. So there's a wide range of things you can do, and I really don't know how much it makes a difference either way. I think you can have them on a perfectly modified scale. I mean, ball pythons you guys have developed like the entire system for them. Like all you have to do is swipe a credit card and you have the perfect rack system with the perfect heat thing in the back. And it's all, a lot went into the development of that. Most of the shit that I work on, I have to build my own cages, which I'm fucking horrible at that shit. And I have to design like, these systems to make it all work and stuff like that. So, but and that's one of the things that actually, I look at the ball python and think, oh man, I wish, these guys would produce like systems like, the system I'm going to need for the anole babies is going to be a problem that I have to come to terms with, because it's an animal that lays one egg every 10 days. It's an animal that if there's a size discrepancy, they absolutely will eat each other. So when you have a single female laying an egg every day, every week to 10 days, by the third egg, you can't put those together anymore. So you got to have a separate thing, a separate cage with a separate plant, with a separate fucking thing. So if you have 100 females producing, you got to have 100 fucking cages just for one round, individual units. So and I can't buy anything. So I have to actually build this system. So that's going to be a self-limiting thing. It's going to stop, I think, a lot of large-scale herpetoculture on them, at least for a while. So it'll keep them more in the hobbyist realm. But somebody eventually will come up, will figure something out, and it won't be me. I don't think. I'm just happy I'll just ride it, while it's good for now. But
right.
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure. I'm looking at screen cages, but then those are easy to put together, the ones Zoom Ed makes, but then I got to buy a fucking shit ton of plants and have the right plant, because doing them outside, if I was doing them inside, I can envision a system where I just got critter keepers and put them in a rack system with a lidless thing with a UV light going across the top. And then you could easily, critter keepers are cheap. You could buy them, and just put them in there. But outdoors is a whole different game. So I don't know. I'm currently in the process of debating how I'm going to make this work. So that's the kind of crap that I waste my time thinking about and trying to develop. But I wish it was just like, man, I'm going to have 500 babies this year, and I could just order this rack that has, 500 tubs in it, and it all comes to your house delivered by UPS, and you just put it together and plug it in, and you're done.
Plug and play, baby.
Yep. And that's that's one of the big pluses of the success of that snake, that we didn't have things like that prior to that. It was the ball python that brought most of the innovation, into it, because there was a lot of money in it. So once there was a lot of money in it, then people were willing to spend the money to develop things and stuff like that. So all the stuff that came along with it, a lot of it, I make fun of the ball python thing. Like there was this Hitler video with I don't know if you've seen that, with him complaining about the ball pythons. It's funny as shit, but ball pythons have been a great big boon for the industry. I mean, without them, we would still be the small kind of a niche thing that we were. So those and bearded dragons have really pushed it forward.
That's why it's still kind of hard. Like, I mean, with all due respect, people could, a lot of people like to roast here and there about certain things, but man, people really like to talk shit about ball python breeders. And I get it, but then I'm like, man, so many fucking OGs I bring onto the show either are ball python breeders or were ball python breeders, or respect the fact that ball pythons were even bred to begin with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, it's why it's like, I don't know, man. Like, all I gotta say is, if you are in ball pythons and you're doing it right, or you're just in ball pythons, you're in a good place right now. I'll tell you right now, ball pythons are fucking booming. And
Yeah.
all I could say is ball pythons could lead to really other cool, amazing shit like this podcast and, you know, other shit. I'm just telling you right now, like, God, that's the platform. In my world, I will never get rid of ball pythons because that's my platform. Like, that's where I was able to grow everything, was off the ball pythons. And I feel like that's not just for me. That's for a shit ton of people who are just getting into this in the last 4 or 5 years, you know?
Yeah, like I said, we breed bearded dragons for the same reason that most people breed ball pythons. They're reliable. Their market is huge. They're easy to sell wholesale. They're easy to sell retail. They keep you floating. If I was a snake breeder, primarily, I would have ball pythons. This company would be powered by probably 50 ball pythons. That would be the primary, you know, kind of cash cow thing. It would never be my or Heather's, you know, like permanent thing, because that's not really our interests are outside of that, but it would always be a part of it. And that's how the bearded dragons are for if you're a lizard breeder, or leopard geckos or crested geckos. There's a few things you can build that off of, but trying to build a company that can last without those key reliable things is extremely risky, because most of the other species are not that reliable. So if you have, like, you can have really good, like I've had really good years with high-end stuff where I was killing it, and then the shit just goes off and you don't get anything for a year, and then you're fucked.
Right.
But bearded dragons, they always produce. Ball pythons, they always produce. Leopard geckos, they always produce. So they're safe. So that's kind of your safety net. And but again, lots of people, but you can specialize in those things and do really well. Like Heather specialized in bearded dragons for a long time, and she's like one of the top people that, you know, there's like a handful of those guys and girls like that are, you know, she's very well known for it. So people come from all over to get her stuff. And it's like that with ball pythons. I know who all those top guys are.
Yeah.
I don't know them personally, but I know who they are. You know, I watch them. I see, like, I was looking at some of the stuff that Ozzy was putting out recently, some of those pictures on his site, and there's some freaking awesome shit on there. And Justin Kavilka, you know, obviously he gets a lot of attention.
Yeah. You talk about Ozzy. You talk about guys like Ozzy and Justin, and that's what kind of reminds you of like where the ball python game is and where it's headed. And, you know, and then there's, you know, and this is just popular people. Like there's Will Morrows, there's people in Canada that are fucking just like blowing shit out of the water. And
oh yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's nuts. Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question, Ron, because you know, as popular as this hobby is getting, a lot of people are very, and it should be this way, but people are wanting to be more concerned about how to keep their animal, like, right? So let's talk about ball pythons, right? Enrichment for a ball python. How big of an effect do you feel like that really has if it comes to breeding and keeping ball pythons? I'm seeing people putting perches and shit in their enclosures, and, you know, now they're like, hey, this is how you need to keep ball pythons, you know, like this is what they do. But in reality, what's your opinion on that? Like, you know, because a lot of people have questions about enrichment and stuff like that. And if you could put enrichment for a ball python, what would you suggest and whatnot?
I mean, again, this is one of those things that I personally try to stay away from, because it's kind of subjective, and it's
right.
And it's almost, and I'm not saying you're trying to trap, but it is almost a trap, right? It's like, it's one of those things that
you could blame these guys. I didn't fucking want to ask this, but they paid they paid $45 for this question, dude. And I'm not joking. Look, I even said, look, I'm refunding your money. I don't want to ask this.
No, it's cool. It's cool, man.
Thanks, guys.
But again,
embarrass myself.
I try to remain agnostic about all this stuff. And I've seen, and to me, when I look at it, my suggestion is, only you know what's best in your situation. So you need to do what's best for you. Sometimes the best thing is the rack system. But if you want, if you want to get more out of something, personally, like you have less of them, and you want to, like, I keep all the stuff that I keep it outside. Part of it is because I like to enjoy it, and I can't, if I have it in an opaque box, you slide the box open, you see it, you're pretty much, then you slide the box closed, you're like, okay. But I like walking by, like banks of enclosures and watching, all the lizards running around and doing different shit. So I do put a lot of personal thought both Heather and I do this, into, into, I don't want to call it enrichment, because the word enrichment to me reeks of political. It's like our own version of political correctness. It's like this bullshit kind of term that people kind of throw around to try to say that they're better than the other guy. And you're not going to ever catch me doing that, because I think we're all the fucking same. I think everybody wants the same shit. And I think everybody does the best they can. And I don't think any of us are fucking elite or lesser
or more.
And how, yeah, more or lesser on how we do it. I think, my view is everybody's trying to do the best they can with what they have, and that's all that matters as far as I'm concerned. But when I put together enclosures, I do try to give, as big as I can, with as much stuff for them to do. Like I said, it comes down to like just the thought of, I try to think about if I took our dog and I locked him in an empty room with nothing to do except for maybe a bowl of food and a bowl of water, and said, see ya, and left him like that. I mean, how much of a life is that? So when I look at it from that way, from my personal standpoint, then when I put together an enclosure, I spend probably way more time actually fleshing out the interior with like branches and logs and underground. Like I put a full subfloor in all my enclosures. My animals can go underneath the ground and nobody, including me, can get them out. They're in a fucking completely, screwed down, heavy fucking wooded underground thing that it's like almost a bunker.
Do you ever go a while without seeing them? Like, do you ever go like, fuck, I haven't seen these guys in a while, or anything like that?
That only happens in the wintertime.
Okay.
They're pretty much out every day. And if I don't see them for an extended period of time, then I will break out the fucking tools and take it apart. But fortunately, I haven't had to do that at all yet this year. So actually, we're in a few years. So that's been good. But yeah, we do that for everything, including blue-tongued skinks. Like, people are very successful breeding blue-tongued skinks and keeping them in those ball python racks. But we keep all of ours outside, and they have subfloors, they have ramps, they have shelving, they have just shit to climb on. I use a lot of CBS blocks for climbing, and it helps them file their nails down and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean enrichment, if God, I hate that word. If you can provide it.
Dude, oh my God, tell me, I got roasted. Okay, shout out to Desiree, but one time I had put shout out to my boy Socrates, because he has potho plants in all his arboreal cages, and I was like, dude, that looks cool. I was like, I want potho plants in my, that was like, it's not too much, it's just a plant, So I started doing it, and I had it on my stories, and Desiree was like, hey, sweet enrichment, bro. And so so like, yeah, and she, I don't know, it's just, I always thought it was funny. So now I say enrichment. I say enrichment all the time. So it's like, right. I feel it's like, fuck, it's kind of like a snobby word, like enrichment, like.
Yeah, I mean, it's just we have our own version of political correctness. There's a few things that we throw around as an industry or as a hobby, and it's just when you look at the base, it's just bullshit. It's one jackass trying to lord over another one for the most part. I mean, not in your case, but I mean, like I'm talking about like some of the shit you see on the forums.
Right.
But again, I think all of those things, I think all of the stuff that we've created for the most part has a purpose. They're all tools for a job, depending on what you do. If your job is to, create, specific ball python morphs, and you're producing them on a large scale, trying to provide them with like these elaborate enclosures is actually going to have the reverse effect, because if you can't adequately take care of them properly, because those cages are like, we have very strict limits on the amount of animals we keep here, because at a certain point you can't manage it anymore. And if the two of us can't manage the entire place perfectly, then we just don't expand beyond it. So it kind of shoots us in the face a little bit as far as, from a business perspective, but it ends up being much more enjoyable for us, and it's better for the animals. And that's just a personal kind of code that we operate under. But if I was doing ball pythons on a large scale, I I would definitely be using racks, so I could keep them very clean, very sanitary. They could have the best food that and all that stuff. So tools for the job. I really don't know how much ball pythons would get, honestly, out of like a lot of things. I mean, I think they'd benefit from probably a hiding box, and stuff like that. But
last time I checked, I mean, it'd be pretty tough for an animal to be living a miserable life for 20 plus years in a tub.
Right.
And what I mean is, like, there's no way an animal is going to always be consistently eating, shedding, shitting, fucking consistently if it was stressed out and not having, you know what I mean? Like, clearly, ball pythons are a rock python that just like to hide. They don't want to be seen. So as much as they would climb at night and shit like that, they're either climbing to hide or they're climbing to look for food. But I feel like they just like to sleep. Like, they just want to be left alone. Like, they're happy like that. This is what I tell myself, right? But with the retic, right? Like, I got rid of all my big retics because I saw pushing, I saw shoving, I saw them fucking up their faces. That to me was like, dude, I don't think they're happy in here. You know what I mean? And it kept standing out in my head. And then I go to Brian Barczyk's, shout out to Reptile. I go to Brian Barczyk's place and I see his fucking 18, 19-foot retics perched up on the top of a 12-foot enclosure. And I'm like, okay, so here I am in a 6x2 with this fucking big snake. Like, those are the signs I look at. I feel like ball pythons would have a lot more pushing issues, or like, I feel like ball pythons or any snake will fuck themselves up if they want to get away from something. Like, if they're just like, get me out of here, they'll hurt themselves. They're idiots. No offense to ball pythons or snakes in general, but I've had a mangrove snake that used to fuck up its face from shoving so much. So it's like, if that's happening, then that's kind of a sign like, yo, this snake is not feeling its environment and it wants to get out or something. And I don't have any of those issues ever with the ball python. They all seem very happy to me in their rack system.
Right. And I think what you're seeing there is the difference between basically an apex predator and in the form of a retic, and the ball python, which is essentially a sit and wait predator. And those types of animals, like ball pythons, blood pythons, things that don't move a whole hell of a lot, that tend to sit in one place for long periods and wait for a prey item to walk by and then get it. Those do real well in captivity, and those tub systems are probably very well suited for them. They don't do a lot in the wild. I mean, I don't know. I've never honestly looked at the movement patterns of ball pythons in the wild, but from the way I've seen them in captivity, I don't think that they're negatively impacted by the rack system. I think the rack systems have done actually the opposite. People have been very successful with those things. That animal is a success story in captivity, and it's in part because of those systems. Now, can you offer it a cool setup if you have one or two? Absolutely. And if it was me and I had them as a pet, or I just had a few, I'd absolutely do that just to see what the range of behavior is. But I don't think, as far as the health or even the mental health, if you even want to go into that direction, of that animal's negatively impacted by the rack system in that instance. Essentially the cage with the water bowl and the paper. But I think they're fine. And I've actually toyed a lot recently with maybe going back to doing some snakes, and in that case it would be blood pythons, and it would be blood pythons because I think they're very well suited for the large, not the CB70, but the large rack system. And they're just a fucking slug that sits in the mud and waits for something to walk by and eat. So a very powerful slug. Yeah. I mean, I've always had I've gotten bit by big ones, man. I used to have a lot of blood pythons, and
I got big by an adult female one time. This lilac, T-positive albino lilac that I had, and dude, it knocked me back a few feet. Like, you know what I mean? It was just super quick, because she never spazzed out. She spazzed out in the beginning, and then she went a long time just being super chill, and then all of a sudden she spazzed out when she was soaking, and she got me in my hand, and dude, my shit felt like I socked a wall or something. Like, it would hurt for a while. And yeah, man, they don't play, but they're all. I do miss them. I miss my group that I had for sure.
Yeah, the strike from those things is it's super fast, and you don't expect it. It's just, and they hit you really hard. because they don't get many chances. They get one chance at a meal, and so they got to make it count. And I think and those types of animals are historically much better suited for captivity than like apex predator. Apex predators are tough, and that's what a lot of big monitors. That's a lot of the problems is that you're not going to take a big predator like that and put it in an enclosure that doesn't challenge its. Basically, it just doesn't provide. They're just too smart.
Right.
What I'm trying to say. I'm just at a loss for words right now, but they're really smart animals.
Point. Yeah, because like an apex predator is always looking for a way out. Like it's always fucking just constantly like looking to do something. I feel like.
Yeah.
And I was told also, Ron, and I don't know if this is right. You tell me with your experience, but I heard when you have a monitor that you've been raising up in an indoor environment, you put them outside, that something could switch. Like they kind of turn and become like more either aggressive or they change. How often does that happen, or has it ever happened with you?
Yeah, I mean, it's very common with tegus. I mean, you have them inside, they're dog tame, you put them outside, and they're fucking totally they're psycho. They go from being puppy dogs. Some of them now some of them don't. So, but I've seen it with Varanids too. I don't know whether that's a case of the animal inside was never getting up to the proper operating temperature, and then once you put them outside in the sun, they were able to regulate their own. Then they really got up hot enough to where they were their true operating temperature is, and they're different. I mean, I can tell you with the Mertens, having just recently moved them from an enclosure that was getting too much shade to an enclosure in full sun with much hotter heat, they are totally different. They were much more mellow and laid back, and their feeding response was relatively low. And then one day after putting them in this new, much hotter enclosure, I opened the lid and it's all mouths. They come flying at it and they wait for food, and you throw the food in there and they just wreck it. So, and that was just moving them from one enclosure to another. So that stuff, that definitely happens. And, the more intelligent and the bigger they are, there can be more changes in that. The sun definitely has an effect. It's like it reverts some of them back to more of a wild state. But again, I don't know any of this for sure. It's just observational, assessments and stuff like that. But I don't know, man. I mean, there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of cool aspects to this, and who knows? Yeah.
Now, you being in Florida, right? I'm sure you don't have to ever worry about spraying or missing your animals that are outside. You just let that shit ride, or do you have to spray from time to time?
No, depending on the time of year. Right now we're in a drought. It hasn't rained, so I'm actually manually spraying a few times a day. I spray at night just before the sun goes down. I soak everything.
The outdoor ones, right? Obviously, we're talking. Okay.
Yeah. Almost everything is outdoors.
And even the laces, right? Like we're talking laces that you're spraying as
well. No, actually, I don't spray them. No, okay. No, none of the Australian stuff gets any kind of spraying at all. No, that stuff it does better when it's dry and super hot. So actually, I kind of have the opposite with them. The spraying I do is all like the tropical stuff that needs more rain. And
so the laces, I don't need to worry about spraying ever.
I don't think so. No, you just supply them with a water bowl. Make sure, and that's pretty much it. I mean, they're really about giving lots of places to climb, because they're really an arboreal lizard. So, a lot of climbing spots.
Yeah.
And heat and food. I mean, they're really easy. Like I said, there's so much good about that monitor. It's a big monitor if you want a big monitor, but it's not really a big monitor, because they're really, top out maybe 18, 20 pounds. I can't imagine they get much heavier than that. I have what I think is a huge male here, and he's nothing. I mean, compared to we have black throat monitors, which it takes two of us to move them, because they weigh, the male's fucking gigantic and the female's not much smaller. And I had to move them recently, and I had to have a buddy come over, and him and I struggled to carry these things across my property to put them in another enclosure. They are gigantic. So, Lace are a good size. They come in, I like personally arboreal stuff because I like giving them huge branches and watching them climb and all that shit. That's just cool shit. And we set them up so they're right on the back of the house, and so along our porch, so we can sit out there in the shade on the porch and watch them all doing their thing. And it's just fucking badass, man.
Yeah, I put them in something taller, and they immediately they love going to the toppest corner of the enclosure and just chilling there. Like they just love it, and it's awesome just to see it too. And yeah, man, I have to say the arboreal monitors, ones that climb, those are definitely my favorite for sure. I would say, 100%.
Yeah, there's a lot to like about them, man. So. And like I said, I don't know if you saw that post I made recently, but I thought I would never, ever get to work with those. So the fact that they legal animals came into the U.S. and became established, just a great thing that happened with the hobby. So. And
you're a part of it, which is amazing.
Yeah, well, now I am. Yeah, but it was established by the guys that got into that bought them originally. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So.
Now, is it true that, I know you mentioned earlier that, you have something to separate the male when it comes down to like, you looking at signs, either leaning against each other or not wanting to be leaning against each other. But is that something you always, when pairing laces or just any kind of, Varanus, like, do you want to make sure there's an opportunity for you to remove that male, like, at all, like during breeding or stuff like that?
Yeah. I mean, so when we built, the unit that we keep the monitors in is basically a 40-foot long by 8-foot wide by 8-foot tall structure, and it's divided into 10 sections. Each section is actually 4 by 8 by 8, and then it has then I cut a hole, they can go in and out of and make them an 8 by 8. So with just putting a board over the hole and screwing it down, then I have 2 4 by 8 by 8s. Pulling the board out, then they all have access to an 8 by 8. That's done for that reason, so that if there's any sort of aggression, if there's any kind of, like if I see the female in a nesting situation, I'll put the male on the other side, close him in so he can't get over there and possibly eat the eggs or harass the female. There's always the potential with all the stuff for aggression, so you want to always make sure you kind of have a backup plan that you can separate them easily, and that's one of the good parts about that system. But I have yet to have to do it. The only one that I did separate was at one point after the Bell's female laid her eggs. She showed some minor aggressive tendencies towards the male, so not to take a chance, because I know that even though the females are smaller, that they have a reputation for killing bigger males. So I just scooted the male over to the next enclosure. I blocked up the hole and left them apart for about 2 weeks. And then when I saw, for like 2 weeks, she would go up to the wire where he was, and he'd be over there on one side trying to get to her, and she would go up, and you could see that she clearly wanted to bite him through the wire. Like she would act a certain way. And then about 2 weeks later, I would see them laying side by side, because they on each side they have a shelving that goes all the way up, so they're parallel. So the only thing separating them was a little, the wire.
Right.
And when I saw them laying side by side, then I knew that they were cool with each other again. And then I took the side off, and then the male came back over and started breeding the female again, and now she's swelling back up. So that's more or less how I do it. It's like the safest way to pull this off, and the easiest way. Because if you have like blue tongue skinks and you pair them and there's some aggression, blue tongues are easy. You can just take one out and put one in a CV70 or something for a while and let it cool off. Because we keep all our blue tongues in pairs too, outdoors year round. Almost never have to separate them either. But sometimes you do, and it's simple. But with a big monitor like that, you really have to take that into account. You need to have a proper setup. You can't just take a big monitor out, put it in a smaller enclosure, for a while they cool off. You really need equal kind of a thing. And just so building a single cage but with dividers is just like the smartest and most seems like just the best course of action. So that's what we did. So we built a giant unit with multiple things like that. So
Yeah, that was a suggestion given to me too. And you know, it just seems like that's the best way to read the animal without having to risk them fucking each other up. You know what I mean? Like being able to see what they do through the wiring versus finding out, you know, firsthand, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a practice that veranda keepers have done for a long time. I saw John Adragna on your fun fact about that. When John Adragna was a little kid, like 15 years old, he used to call me and keep me on the phone for like hours at a time talking about water monitors and all kind of shit. Nothing ever changed, man. It's weird seeing him like you know, I was like in my 20s and this 15-year-old kid from Long Island or 16, wherever, I don't remember how old he was, but man, he could talk your ear off, and he used to call me up, hey, I heard you got a sulfur. And, you know, we had a mutual friend named Mark Bayless, and Bayless would tell him like, oh, Ron's got, you know, got these monitors and all this shit. I used to have a lot of different monitor species back then. And so, yeah, it's pretty funny, man. He's done well. He developed that damn sim container. I mean, that's an idea that was, you know, people in Europe were using for a long time. But what John did was took the idea and then perfected it and made his own thing. And I mean, I use them. They're it
works for every egg. It works for any egg, man. It's so awesome. You know, it's just it's, you know, and the cool thing, he keeps coming up with these new cool designs. Like the newest ones have clips and shit like that. And it's just, it's really awesome. You know, I mean, anyone could technically get a fucking plastic shoebox, do what they want. But like, you know, at the end of the day, some people want to look right through the box. You know, some people want to see what's happening and what's cool with John's new design and whatnot. It's crystal clear, you know, and you could definitely see, you know, if you have one of those incubators with the window, you don't even need to open the incubator to see what's going on. You could just, you know, and the less you need to fuck with the eggs, the better. You know what I mean? So,
and they're not that much more than buying. They're not that much more expensive than buying, you know, just a plastic box and doing. I mean, they're well worth. They're probably some of the best money we've ever spent on like a product for, you know, like a supply product, like a You know, I had a couple cases of them, and they're amazing. He totally hit it out of the park with that. Those things are just they're invaluable. So
I mean,
really good for hard to hatch shit.
Yeah, definitely. You know, people in the chondro community, like, you know, and like you said, anything that's hard to hatch, people hatch these out of these sim containers. And that's a cool story that, you know, you know, in John since he's 15, because John's the kind of person who inspires me with the kind of passion he still carries throughout all these years. You know, like he has the exact same excitement that you just kind of explained right now from when he was 15. You know, and that's the way it should be. You know, like you shouldn't be getting into animals, especially like a monitor, with a sort of kind of like, I don't know if I want to do this forever. Like, no, you shouldn't want to do this forever if you're fucking working with monitors, because these things are with you forever, you know, almost, you know, for the most part. So he's just like somebody who's like been bought in, and he's for sure forever bought in, and he like to shares that passion with people who's in his life. And, you know, I'm so glad I have John in my life. He's the one that set me up with the bells I have now, and he's a phone call away all the time. I love talking to the guy. He gets me excited fucking talking about monitors, and, you know, it's cool. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, he's a fucking lifer, man. He's been around forever, and he stayed on that water monitor thing pretty much the entire time. So yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, he's done really well with the monitors and stuff. He's one of the people that if I actually have questions, that I will call and say, hey man, what's the deal with this? And have you ever seen this? And he generally has an answer to it. So
right. Ron, what's up with shows? Do you normally like to pop your head up at shows? Are you going to be doing any, like, you know, going to Daytona this year, anything like that?
I mean, from 2016 to 2019, we were doing somewhere in the neighborhood of 38 shows a year. So
wow.
38 weekends on the road. It was beating the fuck out of us. So COVID came, and that kind of put an end to that. So I was like, I honestly am glad that was over, and we're not going to go back to doing that anymore. We will be at the big Tinley shows. And we normally do Daytona. We're probably skipping it this year. mostly because we weren't really sure where it would be with COVID and what the attendance would be like and all that. I think actually it's going to be a pretty big show. I think we're going to just go ahead and sit this one out. And we will never go back to doing the show circuit that we did before, but we will be now, saving our best stuff and bringing it to Tinley's, and the two Tinley's a year is good. And I have a lot of friends up there in Chicago, so we have places to stay and all that. So yeah, Tinley's it is by far in my opinion, the best show. It reminds me of the old school Daytona show before, basically before Tinley. They've kind of taken where that one left off. The Daytona show is still good. It's still a good show. I'm not knocking it, but it's not what it used to be. It used to pull in, like, I used to see everybody, like all the guys that were really doing shit would fly in from all over the world, and you'd see them at those shows up until about 2002, I think. But Tinley is like that. When I go there, I see everybody. Like, it's fucking awesome, man. It's a great show. So eventually we may add the NARBC Texas ones to that roster, but
those are cool too, man. I've been to one Arlington, and I'm going to be going to the one in September, but I like Arlington, man. I mean, something about Texas. I just love Texas, bro. It's just, it's good environment, good vibe, good people. I really fuck with Texas.
Yeah, I mean, if Heather and I could pull it off with the legislation in Florida, that would probably be where we would end up jumping ship. But right now, it's not possible due to family circumstances. But if this state got any more tight, where things really we start to lose a lot of stuff, I think that would probably be where we would go, because you can do this almost the same thing there. If you're in southern Texas, you can do all the shit outside, pretty much the same way we do it here. So, and Texas seems to be more of a safer state for that.
Oh man, it's land of the free.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Florida's still pretty good.
Yeah, Florida's like that too, bro. I'm not gonna lie, man. People were like, "Hey, you don't need the mask." Like, they kept telling me, you don't need the mask," and I'm just like, God damn, I'm coming from California where you're getting shit, you're getting all these dirty looks if you don't have a mask. So I'm just like, this mask thing has been like, I get that it's been necessary, but it's been so back and forth, and I'm just like sick of it. Like, God damn, it's. But regardless, like, it was cool to be in Florida where fucking no one really gave a shit. They were just like living with no fear, and yeah, now I'm back in California. Everyone's scared for their life. So, but I mean, it's it's different, bro. And yeah, Texas is definitely up there. I can't wait to go back. Can't wait to see the homies. And yeah, man, I'm sure I'm going to Schaumburg. Are you going to be doing the Schaumburg show in Chicago, or like, I guess I don't know if it's the new Tinley, but I guess it's something that's happening other than Tinley. I don't know if you heard of it, Schaumburg. Or whatever.
No, we considered it, but we just weren't ready, and we don't have enough stuff out this time of year. Like the most of our high end stuff, like the really good shit that we would bring to like a Tinley, doesn't start hatching until like July. So really, we need the October one is the best for that stuff. But then a lot of times we have carryovers, so the March show is good too, because we have stuff that didn't go in like July, didn't go in like October, and then it gets too cold to ship. So we stop shipping in like, mid-December, usually, early January. So anything that's left over, then, we have the March show. So those two Tinley shows worked out really good for our personal schedule. But this one, the Schaumburg show, was kind of, was kind of a last minute thing. I'm probably going to regret not going to that one, but we'll get it next time if they have another one.
We'll get it next time for sure. 100%.
Yeah.
Either way,
absolutely,
it's going to go down. Ron, I have a final question for you, a wrap-up question before we get into the hot seat questions, because you do got to go through some hot seat questions. You're not going to just get out of here that easy. So wrap-up question for you, Ron. What is your advice, okay? Because I get a lot of people who are new into the hobby, and they're just, they want to read, they don't know nobody, you know what I mean? And they're interested in a lot of stuff, right? But when you have somebody who has money and it's not an issue and they want to get into shit, but, like, for instance, like, I tell people, do your research, right? But what kind of research do you advise somebody new into something to do? Like, as far as either if it's reach out to get a mentor or get a book. But what are the important type of researching that you've done or you feel is important in an industry like today?
I mean, it depends on what you want to get into. I personally never stop researching. I honest to God, I mean, people will tell you that I pretty much research all the time. When I'm not, either, working on animals or fucking playing World of Warcraft or doing some fuck off shit.
You're too much.
I'm researching, man. So, I do that. Nonstop. I use Google Scholar. I buy new books because books are still one of the best sources of information. The internet is pretty good, but the problem is that you have to know enough to know what's bullshit, and that's when you're starting out, that's a problem because it's hard to tell what's like legit and what's just fucking bullshit. And the fact is, anybody can say anything on there. So at least with books, it's somewhat vetted. I mean, you could still get terrible books, but it's less of a thing. And podcasts are fucking great, man, because these guys get people that know their shit and they invite them on there. They're not just going to invite somebody that doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. So
I would hope not.
Right. So, I mean, you get, like, I listen to all you guys, like, almost all the podcasts out there. I listen to almost all of them, even if it's about something I'm not interested in, because oftentimes they'll start talking about something and I'll be able to apply it to what I do, like totally random shit too. Like I was listening to the one with Ryan McVeigh talking about UV lights, and there was stuff in there that I didn't know, and I was like, oh, fuck, that kind of So a couple light bulbs went off in my head. So I would say podcasts, books. Google Scholar, pull up research papers. I had to train myself when I was young how to read them, and because they're very technical, but you can get a lot because a lot of biologists have done a lot of amazing work on different species. So if there's a specific species that you're looking for, you go into Google Scholar, you start looking for it, you start reading research papers, and it generally just kind of tumbles down. So stuff like that, and then the business stuff, you can get off of. That's kind of out of my league of my realm of expertise.
Like that's too much for me. I'll show you how to breathe, motherfuckers. That's about it.
Right. Yeah. That's why Heather takes care of all that. I don't. She starts talking to me about that stuff, and I'm just like, I don't fucking know. Whatever. Right. But no, it's all good, man. It's just I don't know. I mean, that's pretty much what I would do when I get into something. The first thing I do is find out what the best books are, and I buy them. Or I download them, in PDF file or whatever. But that's generally the way to go, because then you're getting a good foundation. And then from there, once you get that foundation, then you can go on the internet and start sifting through all the piles of shit looking for the gems that are buried in there. So that's kind of how I do it. So
there it is. There it is from the man himself, fucking Ron St.Pierre. Ron, we got to go through the hot seat questions. Are you ready for these or what?
Fire away, man.
All right. You know how these roll, man. I don't need an explanation. If you want to give a long answer, it's fine. But, you don't have to. It's just, you know what I mean?
Yep, do it.
All right. So hot seat questions for the homie Ron coming in hot. Here we go. Wait, shit. 1 second. Hold on. Sorry, I'm super high. All right, here we go. All right, hot seat questions for Ron. Frozen thought or live?
Frozen.
A cut or no cut?
I don't cut.
So no cut. Okay. Big flexor or no flexor?
I don't know. Depends. Probably no.
I don't know. I mean, personally, I feel like you flex hard. You don't try to, but you flex the shit out of things. But it's all right. No big deal. Baseball or football?
Neither.
Okay. If you had to pick one, what would you pick? Like if you just had to pick one?
Probably baseball. But I mean, dude, I don't do any sports at all. Like I said, that's just not my gig, man. I
could tell you right now, it's like 9 out of 10 breeders I've had on this show say I don't fuck with sports. It's crazy. And I'm kind of the same way. I played sports throughout my whole life. I only really liked watching them when I would actually go to the events, but now it's like watching a baseball game is like pulling teeth, dude. It's like not the same as I was like child, it's like it could get fun, but it's not like, I don't know, man. And just like football's not the same anymore. You know what I mean? It's just weird. Sports definitely got weird. So that's all I got to say. All right. Anyways, steak or fish?
Fish.
Red wine or white wine?
Red.
IPA or sour?
I don't know, man. What is IPA?
You would say that again?
Oh, no, actually, no, dude. I don't drink. I don't smoke.
Good for you.
I've been straight edge forever, man.
I don't drink, and it's fucking been the coolest thing I've done in like a long time. I haven't drank in a minute. I don't even miss it. I don't like drinking at all. Van Halen or Sammy Hagar?
Van Halen, I guess.
All right. Slayer or Iron Maiden?
Fucking Slayer.
Too much. Too hard. Eminem or Machine Gun Kelly?
Eminem.
Cool. West Coast rap or East Coast rap?
East Coast.
All right. Respect. Little word association. First thing to come to mind. Milk.
Breasts.
Okay. There you go. Stuck shed.
Fuck.
Day 60.
Hatch.
Substrate.
Dirt.
Coolest reptile podcast in the world.
Oh, you're going to put me on the spot now, man.
There's only one out there, so I mean...
Is there only one?
I mean, based off the hashtags I'm reading, I'm just going off what the people are saying.
All right, well, yours is a great podcast. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been on here. There you go.
Oh, wow. Is that the word you want to associate to what I just said? That's cool with me. All right, you heard it from me.
Yeah, you're good, man.
Instagram trolls.
Huh?
Instagram trolls.
Oh, you gotta love trolls, man.
Gotta love them. All right, how about this? One has to go forever, and I mean forever. Facebook or Instagram?
Fuck. Instagram.
Instagram? You would get... Dude. Damn. Heavy, Ron. Instagram's the future.
Right?
Crazy.
Facebook is just fucking irritating. That's all. Facebook does some shit that pisses me off, but whatever.
But a lot of you would have to say that you're more active on Facebook than you are Instagram, huh?
Yeah, that's because that's kind of where
all your homies are at.
Yeah, I started using it personally a long time ago just to keep track of my gaming buddies and stuff like that so we could stay in contact. And then eventually I started accepting Reptile friends, and then it just fucking turned into this thing where I got full max friends. And, so I realized, hey, I can post shit on there and I get lots of feedback and interest and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's cool.
What is your game of choice? I wanted to ask you, what is your game of choice? What is your ultimate favorite fucking game that you just would love to, no matter what time it is, you're down to play it?
I still play World of Warcraft primarily. I'm a big MMO gamer. I played EverQuest for a long time, and that's the reason. Actually, I'm like super fucking addictive. Like when I like something, I fucking do it until it kills me, which is why I don't fucking drink and I don't do any kind of drugs.
Yeah, I hear you. Dude.
I am the guy that would I'd be sitting on a fucking couch somewhere eating Cheetos, giggling my ass off with a big ass fucking bong, and I never get anything done because that would be me. I would do that 24 hours a day and not do anything else. So
get nowhere.
Or I'd be an alcoholic. So that's why I realized that about myself when I was pretty young, and I was just like, yeah, I'm not. So, but I am pretty, when I was playing fucking EverQuest pretty hardcore, I was playing 10, 12 hours a day.
Savage.
So, yeah, it was pretty crazy.
That's definitely a world of itself, that whole gaming shit. My buddy Bo, he's so hard in the World of Warcraft. He has been for years, as long as I've known him. Been homies with him since I was 18. And we partied hard together, but he's always had his time for World of Warcraft and has just gone hard as fucking it. And yeah, man, kudos to you gamers out there, man. I know it's a real thing for sure. So
yeah, it's something, man. I've been playing that game since it was new, so it's been 16 years.
Wow.
17. Yeah, long fucking time. It's a long time to play one video game, but it is what it is.
Hey, Ron, listen, you've been on plenty of podcasts. You're obviously somebody people want to hear from. What do you have to say to all your supporters out there? Everyone who looks up to you, people who've been following your work, everyone who just happens to just be inspired by you. What do you have to say to everyone?
Nothing, man. I mean, I don't take it for granted, and I really appreciate that people, that people care about what I'm doing and what I've been working on, and that's a fucking humbling thing for sure. And I would have never done shit without all the people that have kind of, been interested in what I do or had my back in some way. And, just don't take me too seriously. I'm just a fucking jackass like everybody else. So,
respect, bro. Respect. Well, listen, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I always do, Ron. Obviously, this won't be the only time we bring you on. Can't wait to have you back on someday, bro. But again, man, I appreciate you. Appreciate all the work you do. And yeah, man, keep on inspiring, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Again, great podcast, dude. It was fun. And next time you get down to Florida, man, hit me up.
Yeah, I will for sure. I am heading down to Daytona in August, but I will be there longer than a few days. I should be there for at least a week. I'm supposed to visit Robbie up in Gatorland, and he's in Orlando. So is that kind of near you? Is that kind of up in that area by you, or where are you at?
Oh yeah, no, yeah. We don't live that far from Gatorland, so
okay,
we're
perfect.
real close to Daytona. Yeah, so dude, totally. I've got other people coming at that same time, so let me know.
Bitchin'.
Sure. I'll take care of you.
Thanks, Ron. You're the man. I'll be in touch with you, especially for that normal lace. So good luck with that, and have a great weekend. Okay, I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, man. You too. Thanks, dude.
Right. Later, Ron.
Yep.
Ron St.Pierre in the books. Man, long overdue. I'm loving getting these fucking monitor breeders in the podcasts now. It's just awesome. You know what I mean? I always said, yeah, ball pythons. I love my ball pythons, and I have a lot of sick ball python homies, but I want to bring some more diversity to the fucking channel. And I'm doing it. And I'm just thankful that all you guys happen to tap in with me and all that stuff and whatnot. And yeah, man, I appreciate all the support. You guys are amazing. Real shit. Just don't ever ask me to ask an enrichment ball python question like that again. That is crazy. Listen, I forgot to give shout outs real quick to stuff I got in the mail. And I don't want to forget because these are from some really cool homies, like my homie up in Canada. Come on. My homie Harry up in Canada sent me some sick ass stickers. So make sure you go follow my homie Cascade Critters. Really, really cool homie. Definitely gives me a lot of support. He's a Trap Patreon member for sure. And yeah, man, Harry, you're the man. Thank you so much. Make sure you go follow my boy Harry. Wrote me a cool letter. Something about, let's see, your podcasts have helped me a ton with breeding and bettering my animal care. Keep on doing you, and I look forward to seeing you on the future podcasts and videos. Much love from Canadian homie Harry. Harry, you're the man. Thank you, bro. You know what's good. Thank you for being a part of the Trap Patreon. And yeah, we will tap in eventually. We will smoke together eventually. Eat some microdose mushrooms eventually. You already know what's good. I got it also this cool package from the homie Morphed Out Reptiles. So the homie Tim over at Morphed Out Reptiles sent me a shirt. Let's check out the shirt real quick. And yeah, man, let's see. So XL, let's see. Oh yeah. There it is. Morphed Out Reptiles. The homie Tim. Thank you so much, bro. I will be rocking this. I appreciate you. Appreciate all of you for all the support that you are consistently giving me. Before we leave, if you enjoyed this, if this was your first time tapping in, please hit the subscribe button. I do these every Thursday, 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, every Saturday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Those are 2 solid-ass reasons to subscribe right then and there. So if you subscribe, I really appreciate it, and you will thank yourself for doing it because there's just so much shit that's coming to this channel. It's not even ridiculous. Guess what? Saturday. Boom! David D this Saturday, episode 83. All you chondro fanatics out there, I hope you're ready for this. David D is stoked to be coming on Trap Talk, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. This guy, I'm telling you right now, is legend as fuck. When I say legend, I mean legend. All his shit is top notch. I got to see his work over at the homie Socrates' place, and I am just so amped up. I'm telling you right now, will I ever be able to afford a David D product? Probably not. But let's, if I can at least bring him on to talk about some shit, I'm cool with that. You feel me? You feel me? Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, mjexoticscartal, Trap Talk with MJ Podcast. 2 very important Instagram accounts you should be following. Make sure you follow me on Twitch, Trap Talk with MJ Podcast. I'm on TikTok. You need to get my follow-ups on TikTok. You get my follow-ups, I'll get my uploads ups. Does that make sense? TikTok. Come fuck with me on TikTok. Why are you guys sleeping on MJ on TikTok? MJ Exotics Cartel 619 on TikTok. Shout out to my Patreon family. I love you guys to death. You guys are the motivation. Every Sunday it goes down. Trap Talk Zoom sessions. I see all you Patreon members face to face every Sunday. We get downs. We talks about stuff. If you're like, damn, I'm so fucking motivated to learn more, but you're like, who do I talk to, man? Everyone else is fucking shady or just not giving me the time of day. Bro, we'll give you the time of day. The Trap Talk Patreon page will come give you the time of day and come see for yourself. Okay, so shout out to my Patreon members. You guys are the truth. I'll see you this Sunday, and I'll see you other trappers this Saturday, 9 a.m. Fucking David D in the building. Shit's going to be too hot for television.